An educated consumer is our best customer.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room because it's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just, I don't know, is killing people right now.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. So, I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
Vaping is a form of tobacco harm reduction. No one is claiming it is the silver bullet that's going to stop everyone from smoking. And I think that's really important to acknowledge. And the people that actually support vaping support it as a harm reduction model.
An educated consumer is our best customer.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Hello, how are you? And welcome to Son of Liberty Radio here on the Smoke Free Radio Network. Before you guys ask, I don't know anything about Demetrius other than he was supposed to be discharged home today. I know that Phil has said that he would be jumping in a car tomorrow and driving up to help around the house so that Connie doesn't go crazy. But that is everything I know. Phil will update when Phil has time. All I can say is let the man heal. But howdy. I see that Shannon and Mark and Kevin, Kevin's here, and Miss Jaffar's, Chugga, and David and Paul and Tom and all you guys are here. Oh, Rob Ramdisk is in the YouTube, and RBMKII is in the YouTube. I don't see Bruni. I'm hoping that somebody has tagged Bruni, and Leanna and Josh are both just popped into the chat room as well. So howdy. This is Super Bowl weekend for us Americans that like American football. So I hope that everybody is excited to see the awesome Super Bowl commercials. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about tobacco harm reduction and vaping and saving people's lives. And probably some Twitter hijinks in there somewhere. And we have a guest. So yeah, we won't waste a lot of time with that. But hey, let me just go ahead and bring in Kevin. So everybody can say hello to Kevin. See how I'm saying his name today? Kevin. So hello, Kevin.
This isn't Netflix. Wait a minute. I'm on the wrong channel. What are you doing?
Yeah,
what is that?
I'm stirring up shit.
What is that consumer thing at the very beginning and the very end? What did that say?
An educated consumer is our best customer. Educated consumer. But hey, did you see my shirt? It says Act of Defiance, and then there's a picture of a raised fist with a microscope, and then it says embrace science, not ignorance.
That's a nice way of saying,
man,
idiots.
I want to take a selfie with this for my next Twitter photo talking about tobacco harm reduction. I need to be wearing this shirt and, asking for, some of these, ideologues to come in and have a chat. That's my next invitation to conversation I will be wearing this shirt. So Apathy Miller just showed up in the YouTube chats as well. So what's been going on with you?
Nothing. I'm just getting ready for the Super Bowl. I'm hoping the Bears will win. That's my prediction.
The Bears.
That's it. That's all I got.
The
Logan's
Bears.
not here tonight. He'll be here tomorrow. We won't.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, that's okay. Hey, you know what? I'm vaping Logan right now.
There you go. See?
That's what I'm vaping Logan. Anyway, it's called Logan.
Does it have a tail?
No, it's a Dominican cigar with some boozy notes and some coffee notes. It's pretty cool.
Is that the stuff you're going to send Jennifer and Nick late eventually someday?
Someday, when I feel charitable, I'll
trying to channel them in.
Hey, but Kevin,
what's this Nancy lady? What are we doing?
Well, I'm tired of only having one Nancy in the show. That's you. So I brought in another Nancy, and this one's an actual real Nancy. But
we like her better than we like each other. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I like everybody more than I like you. So that's how we work. We're geared for that. But we've been doing pretty good about getting guests on the show, Kevin.
I know.
So, and I don't want you to embarrass our guest tonight and make her mad and make her want to leave, because that's my job. But no, don't do that. So tonight we have, and I hate to say this, but we've been spending a lot of time in Australia and New Zealand and over in that part of the world. But there's a reason, there's a method to the madness. We had, obviously we had Eliana, because Eliana's in the intro video. We had Eliana on. We had Henage on. He's not in Australia or New Zealand, but he is over there in Thailand Thailand, I think is where he's at. And we had Dr. Maroa Glover. Paul's been on so many times it's not even worth counting Paul anymore. But we've had a lot of guests, and we had a senator from Australia on the show last week. So we've had a lot of people from that part of the world. We're gonna have to start fishing in a different pond, but we have an amazing ambassador for vaping in the Asia Pacific / Oceana region.
Are you seeing
coming on tonight?
Are you seeing Chugga?
I saw Chugga.
Did you see what she said?
I will not stir up trouble because of Chugga. I won't do it.
Who's going to be getting her diploma shortly? I heard or saw earlier.
I heard. Yeah. I did see that she was applying.
So,
anywho, don't embarrass us in front of our guests.
I'll try. I've got pants on for a change. Just relax.
Well, no, you wouldn't want her laughing at your little. Never mind.
It's fine. Trying to help.
So I get. I guess we've wasted enough time picking on Kevin for now. We'll probably get back to that, but right. I want to welcome our guest tonight, who is a transplant to New Zealand, and I put on the intro artwork that she was stuck in New Zealand, but she says that she's not. But they could be holding her against her will, and they could be making threats. So we don't want to. We won't cover that, but I want to welcome from CAPHRA, which is an awesome advocacy consortium group over there in the Asia Pacific region. That's not just New Zealand or New Zealand and Australia, but it's like all those places over there that are in the that area, Southeast Asia and all that. So anyway, we're gonna talk to her about that. But anyway, so let's welcome Nancy Loucas to the show.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Now, I'm sure I've seen you in the chat room at least once that we've been on. So you sort of know that we're kind of idiots and we just do whatever we want to do.
Chucklehead.
Which is fine because it's still fun,
Yeah,
but Don't be embarrassed by Kevin's hijinks. I promise you.
That's right.
He can't hurt you. He's way over there.
He's so far away.
Not from here.
Thousands of miles. It's not an issue.
And don't worry, the ginger is not contagious.
No. No.
Okay, I wasn't worried about that, but thank you.
I can't get souls through the camera. I tried.
No.
Yeah. Well, how many freckles do you have?
All of them.
You know what they say is for every freckle, that's a soul that a ginger has stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Yolanda. Hi, Tom.
So all these people are saying hey to you because they love you. They love you. But so Nancy, who are you?
What do you mean, who am I?
And why are you here?
Who are you? Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Who am I? I'm Nancy. I'm a former smoker. I'm a consumer advocate. I started out in the advocacy game. We formed AVCA, which is the New Zealand Consumer Advocacy Group, in 2015 because Wellington City Council wanted to put vaping under smoke free. And that's how AVCA was born. And then from there, it expanded. And now I am the executive coordinator for CAPHRA, which is the Coalition of Asia Pacific Tobacco Harm Reduction Advocates. And as you said in your introduction, we cover the entire region from New Zealand to Korea, all the way over to Pakistan, and then down to Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. So yeah, it's a big area. And interestingly enough, it's also the area that has the most harm from tobacco use. So my life is
it's probably the area that Bloomberg has spent the most money in too.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it in the Philippines, although in saying that, the Philippines was only the tip of the iceberg because a lot of that money has been going to other countries with his philanthropic activities, to curry favor and then push his agenda. Yeah. So
stuff it down your throat money. Yeah.
Kinda, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
you wash my back, I'll wash yours.
Yeah, among other things, I'm sure, no doubt. But yeah.
Squirrel. See? That could be a drink word. Just that statement all by itself. There you go.
Squirrel. Squirrel. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy, you don't have a Kiwi accent.
No, I don't, because I was born and raised in New York, and I moved here in 2007. I was already like 40 years old, and there was no way my voice, my accent was going to change at that point.
You're barely 40 now, young lady.
Yeah, dreams. Time travel. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much that's why I don't sound like a Kiwi. I mean, I am. I have a passport. I'm a citizen. But yeah, you take the girl out of New York. You can't take the New York out of the girl. That just isn't going to happen.
No.
So when you go to hearings, do you carry your knife with you?
No, of course not.
Because that's how New Yorkers do it.
Knives. From the island. I'm not from the city. God. Maybe the girls in Nassau County did that, but the girls in Suffolk County didn't do that.
It's a blade, not a knife, Patrick.
There's that too. Get with the program.
Many years ago, I dated a young lady who was Portuguese from Long Island, and I don't think she went anywhere without a knife.
Blade.
Was she from Farmingville by any chance? Because that's where they all came. They all lived. Just basically in Farmingville.
Well, I mean, she actually was in Valley Stream when I met her. So, but yeah, they're mean. They're feisty. They're feisty.
Yeah.
So, Nancy, I guess we need to talk about your smoker story, though. Like, tell us about your smoker story.
My smoker story. Okay. My parents both smoked. My grandparents smoked. About 11, 12 years old, we used to nick their cigarettes and go out into the high teas, which for people that don't know what the high teas are, the power lines, that there's these fields of power lines in Long Island that run along the back of neighborhoods. And they're just like big fields. They're like the size of a football field, but they have the big poles and the wires running through. So we'd nick cigarettes and we'd go to the high teas is what we called it. And we'd smoke. And I pretty much started smoking when I was about 11 or 12. It was the done thing. And I smoked up until I've smoked free now for a little over 10 years. The reason I quit, my mother, I want to say smoking killed my mother, but smoking helped kill my mother, but it wasn't what killed my mother. My mother died at 58 from a heart attack. She had a bad heart from the time she was a kid because she had rheumatic fever, right? And she was always on all these medications and whatever, and she smoked like a chimney. And when she had the first heart attack, she was 47. And I didn't want to do that to my kids. And I mean, people have heard this story before. I didn't want to do that to my kids. I didn't want them to see me so sick and so, basically munted. So I switched to vaping, and I was a dual user for a while. I'll admit that. And then I finally completely switched over. Like I said, I didn't want to do that to my kids. And I wanted to share that with other people because I knew there were plenty of other people that had gone through the same process that I had with trying, the patches, the gum, the Champix, which put me in the hospital because it just completely screwed me up. So that's why I do what I do. So I smoked for about 30 years, over 30 years, probably 35 years or so. And I've been vaping for about 11 now. So yeah, that's my smoker story.
That's cool. I mean, your smoker story is so much like Kevin's smoker story. It's just like my smoker story. And it's the thing. It's the one unifying thing that all of us have, no matter where we are, whether we're in New Zealand or whether we're in Ohio or Texas or, Ed West is over there in California and Chug is also down in New Zealand, and God knows where Hamish is at. Ivana's in Canada. All these people all over the world have the same or very similar stories. Mm-hmm. You tried multiple things to quit. Didn't work. Mm-hmm. Kevin tried many things and it didn't work. I tried many things and it didn't work. And we found the one thing that worked. And here we are. I mean, I'm just past 10 years. And 10 years after finding this miracle, here we are having to fight to protect the thing that we know. Mm-hmm. The one thing that we know worked for us and will possibly, because, like Senator Holly Hughes says in the video in the intro, nobody's saying that this is the silver bullet that will kill all cigarette smoker or all, cigarette smoking, but it is the most successful method that anybody, I mean, I even, if you go to Twitter, you'll see a post that I created to promote this show. And it's a still frame of the promotional artwork with audio playing in the background. And Mitch Zeller, the head of the Center for Tobacco Products at FDA, says in that video that if people quit smoking and use this product, there is a likelihood of reduced harm. We had a wonderful guest from New Zealand on about a month and a half ago, Eliana.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to try to say all of her names. Eliana, who is a fucking scientist, did science on the show. Mm-hmm. Lets her mother, who is a older person who has smoked for a very long time, use this technology because she's a scientist and knows that it will help her mother quit. And here we are, a decade in. And we are fighting the same battles that we fought 10 years ago. Well, FDA is trying to stop delivery of these products here in the United States. Guess what? UPS or USPS is now going to be banned from carrying these products. Mm-hmm. FedEx and UPS are both voluntarily saying, you know what, we're probably not going to, we don't want to carry them either. So that's the same battle that we fought in 2009 when the government stopped these products at the border and seized them and said, you can't deliver these products because FDA says so. So yeah, I mean, it's the same fucking fight.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I don't know how many people are aware of this. In 1979, the University of Pennsylvania ran a clinical trial on a nicotine inhaler. My mother was on that clinical trial, and for the it was a 12-week clinical trial, and by the end of the 12 weeks, she was using that and she wasn't smoking. She was about to start the second part of that clinical trial, stage 2 of that clinical trial, and it was shut down. This was in 1979. Okay. So what does that show you? That shows you that they know that nicotine isn't the problem, A. And B, it shows you the power of the pharmaceutical companies and tobacco companies at that time to shut down something because it was a threat to their bottom line. Now, this is exactly what's going on now. It's just morphed into something different. That's
except now that the pharmaceutical companies are indeed working on product development for nicotine inhalation, and
years.
So obviously the tobacco companies are working on new and inventive delivery methods for nicotine. So, I mean, when the pharma companies and the big tobacco companies are basically working hand in glove, to wipe out the smaller businesses that they don't want to compete against. I mean, literally, that's what's going on. Yeah. I mean, every day, if you pay attention, you'll see pharma companies, filing for patents on nicotine inhalation products. Yeah. You'll see, obviously, MRTPs being processed for IQOS. You see, other companies are also developing heat not burn. And, we have the Village-backed Hale from Hava Health, which is a pharma-produced nicotine inhaler that looks exactly like an e-cigarette.
Yeah, I know.
I had a long discussion with somebody about the Hava Health and the Village and Bloomberg. And I'm like, you know what? Regardless of whether or not Bloomberg is managing the Village or whether or not he even knows what the Village is invested in, he is invested in that product. Whether he knows it or not is irrelevant. We know that he is. So if we go on Twitter and say, well, he's backing this, his money is in this, he stands to gain some income from it, possibly, whether he knows it or not. I mean, those funds are not managed by the members. I mean, they employ people to manage the fund and to pick the investments and all that. But he's invested in it, so it doesn't matter if he knows about it or not. We can still use that. We can still push his nose into the dirt and say, look what you did. Look what you're a part of. Yeah. So, yeah, I see a lot of people now, or some people trying to push back on that message. And like, he's invested in it, whether he wants you to know about it or not, or whether he knows about it or not. He's invested in it.
Yeah. And the other thing you've got to think about, and Clive Bates brought this up, is that, a lot of these people, these do-gooder people, millionaires, billionaires, whatever, okay? A lot of them are being advised by people that have more of a vested interest in stopping vaping than he may actually have. These experts, and these are the same people that are attacking all of us, okay? So we can attack Bloomberg, yes, because what he's doing, whether he's aware of it or not, okay, is wrong. But it's the people around him, because it could very well be, just hear me out here. When you're that rich and you've got people managing all your stuff for you and all your money for you, okay, you don't know what's going on. You just want to see the report and go, okay, yeah, I made this much money. Yeah, great. I'm doing fine. It's the people around him that are the ones that are advising him, okay? What's scary about this, though, is that those same people now, and a lot of them are also people that get funding from the various foundations that he puts money into, are now turning the tables and attacking the consumer advocates. That's the problem.
because everywhere. I mean, obviously, there's I'm not even going to say his name in here, but there's a particular Australian public health guy that we've been. I mean, the vapors have been. I mean, I even fucking dunked on him a couple times, and I'm like, look. He calls everybody that's a vaping advocate on Twitter a big tobacco puppet. Everyone. That's his same script response. He's a professor of public health specializing in grassroots development, social media, and media campaigns. And he only has like 170 followers on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I actually last week I said, guys, just don't give him any air anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's unimportant. Like I tagged him in the post to let him know he is a minuscule cog in a very large machine. He has no importance. He's a failure at what his specialty is. If he is a specialist in social media and he only has 170 followers on Twitter, how good can he be? Ignore him. Don't give him any air, and he will disappear. He is irrelevant.
Choose your battles.
That is an unimportant little. So I was like, just push him to the side. There are bigger targets that we need to fry, and he's not even. He's the bait to get the big fish.
But it's part of it. Okay, it's part of the whole distraction. It's part of the whole divide and conquer. All of those little people, you know. So that's why I'm saying, people, we have to choose our battles, and we have to beat them at their own game, without going down to the petty level that a lot of them have gone down to, including that person and another person whose name shall not be mentioned, but works in collaboration with him. It's fear. You do realize that a lot of these anti-people, okay, and I'm explaining this not because I condone their behavior, but just so you understand what you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with someone, it's better to understand where they're coming from so you know where the weak spots are. Okay, a lot of these people, it's fear. And what the fear is, if they're a researcher, they're afraid of maintaining that funding coming in to do their science and maintaining their relevance. Okay. And their expert status. And then the other side of that too, and I think Chugga will probably agree with me on this too, is a lot of them have it so ingrained in them, quit or die. They can't process the skill set that they have in public health. They can convert that and be progressive. But by doing that, they lose that whole expert status. They lose that whole funding mechanism. It all boils down to fear and money. That's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously
I wouldn't want to take down my I love me wall, you know.
But we know that academia is one of those places where you build your wall, and you specialize, you focus, you research on one thing, and then if something comes along that sort of blows your mind, you don't want to change your whole ideology, because then you've got to start over. But every once in a while, we get one of these tobacco control people or public health people who one day the spark goes in their head and they're like, shit, I've been wrong this whole fucking time.
A real scientist.
Every once in a while this happens, not frequently.
I hate to break this to you. There are a lot of scientists that don't work in the tobacco harm reduction space that are actually like that. There are real scientists out there that come up with a hypothesis, you know, and they do it and they adjust and they amend. It seems to be, and maybe because this is what we're exposed to, okay, it seems to be that in this particular area of tobacco harm reduction, that's the fear is very, very strong, as opposed to
we got guys like Ray Nyora, who was a public health guy who was anti-vaping.
Mm-hmm.
He did this research and he's like, oh shit, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm pro-vaping now. What's the other guy, Kevin? The other one from New York?
David Abrams.
Yeah, David Abrams was the same way.
Dr. Glover, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Well, she's in tobacco control. The lady in England, Grandma, whatever her name is.
Granny Louisa. Louise.
Yeah.
Louise Ross.
Yeah.
Also Robert Beaglehole here in New Zealand. I mean, if you're a proper scientist, you don't hold steady to one particular idea. Your mind is open, and
That's not what science is.
That's what science is. But a lot of these, that's why I say I question whether they're actual scientists or not, because they're not acting like scientists. And ultimately they're making other scientists look bad by the way they're behaving.
We've always done it this way. That's
it doesn't work like that though. But it doesn't work like that. And precautionary principle doesn't work like that either, but whatever. So anyway, you're thinking.
So yeah, I mean,
smoke coming out of his ears. He's like, hey, wait, she's making me think.
No.
Why is she doing that?
No, Apathy Miller just texted or just put in the chat room that Demetrius has apparently left him a voicemail and says that he is at home and he's doing as well as can be expected in that situation. Yeah, so that is awesome. Everybody send your love to Demetrius, but leave him the fuck alone for 2 weeks. That's all I'm saying.
He's busy.
Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, we got I saw something this week, Kevin and Nancy. Chuck Schumer, who is a guy, he's a congressman here in the United States. He's a dickhead. He's anti-vaping. But he's the co-sponsor for a federal pot legalization bill.
No.
And Ethan Nadelman, who is somebody that we love and who is near and dear to our heart because he is a harm reduction guy. He is a harm reduction scientist who has been vocally pro-vaping, was like, basically saying, because he lives in Schumer's district. He says something like, oh, I'm so happy that my representative is coming out so pro-harm reduction and is co-sponsoring this federal decriminalization or legalization bill on pot. And I'm like, okay, so if you're such big friends with him or big fans with him, please, please, please sit down and have a tobacco harm reduction talk with him.
Yep.
Crickets. A couple other vapors also took the opportunity because, when we started looking at people outside of our bubble, we tend to kind of swim in the same current. We kind of go in the same fishbowl time after time. When we started reaching outside of the fishbowl and looking at these different people that are harm reduction guys, and also them picking up our baton, he's one of those guys that was out front when it came to harm reduction experts in other fields, drug policy guys, stepping up and saying, well, vaping is way better than smoking, and it's a harm reduction strategy that we support. He's one of those guys. So like a lot of us are following him now. So that's why, I like that these other people outside of our thing, because, Dr. F and Dr. Glover and, the other academics that are vaping academics, we love them to death, but it's always awesome when somebody outside of our circle
gives them a break.
That's an academic person says something worth us amplifying. So yeah, I like that, and I'm glad. What was the doctor's name from New Zealand that you said?
Robert
Chugga?
Beagle
Or Nancy? Robert Beagle.
Beagle. He's the head the board. Action on Smoking and Health in New Zealand. Robert Beaglehole. He's very pro vaping and pro harm reduction.
Now, during the Australian special thing, was he one of the guys that was there? Is he the older man?
He's the older guy that they asked him, and they said, "Well, you used to work for the WHO. How can you?"
That's the one that I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Which pissed him off. Understandably.
Well, yeah. It was like, well, why? What? The thing about those hearings in particular, it seemed like obviously certain people that were on the committee had preconceived notions and were loaded for bear. They were trying to figure. I mean, they tried to discredit Clive when Clive was on. They tried to discredit Dr. Beaglehole when he was on. Every one of the people that were in there that was speaking about pro vaping, they asked, well, have you ever taken money from, tobacco companies and yada, yada, yada. Everyone. I don't believe that they asked the doctors that were anti-vaping that same question.
No, they didn't. I think the decision was already made. I think that was just they weren't going to budge. They'd made up their minds and they weren't going to budge. I made a submission on behalf of CAPHRA, and I got an email back from the head of that committee, and I had to fill out a 7-page form. I think H had to as well. And they were asking us the same stuff. Are you affiliated with a tobacco company? Do you have interest in industry? I'm like, why am I filling out this conflict of interest form to make a submission? I mean, seriously. But that was the beginning of, really pushing and making in the attacks on consumer advocates. It started in Australia and it's just exploded everywhere.
So
Chugga, I can see you.
The AMA did not have to do that, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah.
No. Wow. So it's the attack thing. And that's one of the things that we're going to discuss in the next webinar, the Voices for Vape webinar, is the attacks. Because quite a few of our consumer advocates are just getting blasted in like the British Medical Journal. What is that? Focus on science and stop attacking people. And that's why I said the fear thing. It's the fear thing. They're scared. They know. They just don't want to acknowledge it. So they're going to try to pretend it doesn't happen. And if they can't pretend it doesn't happen, they're going to try to destroy the people that are pushing it and promoting it. And
well, I'm horrible with names, but the consumer advocate, there were 3 consumer advocates in that video presentation in Australia. The older lady, they specifically, she was very angry because the people that had been on earlier in that day had multiple times referenced, the personal stories of vapors as being anecdotes. That's not science. That's an anecdote. All those people are anecdotes.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that really upset me. I mean, we've heard that countless times here in the States. So, it's not new for us, but when you're in that particular setting, in a hearing or in a committee meeting or whatever, and you're providing testimony, the last thing that you want to hear is that your words are meaningless. Your story has no value.
And see, here's the thing about that, Patrick, okay, is that those people work for the citizens. Those people that were giving those testimonies, I hate to break it to them, some bitches, they work for those people giving the testimony and not the other way around.
Yep.
But it's very hard to get that point across when you're sitting. It's scary to be sitting there giving your testimony in front of all these people when okay, that they don't want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. The fact that they actually said those things to those people giving testimony says more about them and what that outcome was going to be. And that's what all of us are dealing with. And that is just, it goes against, besides it goes against, being a decent human being, these people are mandated to serve the people. They're not serving the people. They're serving themselves. Mm-hmm. This is the problem. So don't throw the WHO FCTC at me when actually in the WHO FCTC, it doesn't just say, limit tobacco. It also says, harm reduction, and people have the right to health, and people have a right to, be involved as stakeholders. Don't throw that in my face.
1D, Article 1D.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin did his homework.
It's like people, this is going to be completely irrelevant, but it's like the people that have these arguments about circumcision on these parenting boards, right? You can find all the science you want to say, oh, circumcision is great. And you can find all the science you want that circumcision isn't great. It's cherry picking. And when you're in science, you can't be cherry picking. It is what it is.
See, every time a woman says the word circumcision,
it hurts. I know.
Oh,
just saying.
So, Patrick, just so you know, she's a stealth science geek, and she wants you to underestimate her because that'll be fun, she says. on her Twitter.
Well,
Yeah, well. Go ahead.
I think all of us. I mean, obviously, I'm wearing the Act in Defense.
Oh no, I'm wearing
Great Science shirt.
I was a research administrator at Stony Brook University in surgical research. That's where the science geek comes from.
Nerd.
Yeah.
But on your, I looked on your personal because it took me an hour to figure out where you were.
Kevin, are you spying on her?
No,
He's stalking me.
Are you stalking her? Are you internet stalking her?
I already follow her.
I went to her Facebook and stole a picture.
But that's the thing. The network of people that we have, you were a surgical what?
I was a research administrator in the Department of Surgical Research in the Department of Surgery in the School of Medicine at Stony Brook University.
Well, that scares the living shit out of me because it should.
It should.
So when you have the intelligence level to say that and know what you're talking about in other parts of your life, in your world, and where, you know, Ed's over in California, retired, and he's, you know, like 140 years old, but I don't know what he did before that.
That old. Stop.
Well, he's getting there. Come on.
He is pretty old. I think he's an old hippie.
Yeah, probably.
I think he's an old hippie.
But when you're standing there trying to testify against the people that don't want to listen to you, and you're talking in their language,
yeah,
and you're fluent in their language, they don't like it.
They don't like it.
I act just as stupid on Twitter as well as you probably.
That's not an act.
And then and then once in a while I go, wait a minute, and then they don't know what to say, or they ignore you, or they block you.
Well, no. It's when you hit them with a picture that has like lines and circles and highlights and everything. You know,
anybody smart enough or smarter than me should be able to follow those lines. It's not a year old
crossing each other, and there's
you gotta understand something. Ileana and I are really tight. We're really good friends.
Oh
no. You need to know.
See, that's the other thing.
Well, I mean, New Zealand is very small. And you got to know, I'm sure that everybody in New Zealand knows everybody else.
No, not necessarily. There's 2 degrees of separation, but Ileana and I, we just hit it off, and we geek together, you know? I mean, she can go geek on her science stuff, and I understand what she's saying. And not many people do.
That's a good thing.
Well, we did understand everything she said on our show.
Yeah,
but I think she might have dumbed it down for the chuckleheads, but
probably.
When she brought out the nicotine molecule model,
she loves that thing
and broke it apart and showed how it you know metabolizes in the body, and then she brought in the air quality breather doohickey and breathed in it and
CO2 monitor.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah,
whatchamajigger.
Thingamajig.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit or a hookamabob or whatever you want to, you know.
Yeah.
We were so
she did science while we were on the internet web
live on the air. So yeah, we love her to death. And then obviously I put out the challenge. And I still, you know, I've had, you know, Demetrius was on the show last week before he broke his arms. Was on the show last week, and I even said it. I think that instead of, you know, I think we would have a better response if we actually brought the scientists to the hearings instead of you know us regurgitating 95% less harmful, or us bringing a study and saying here's the study. We bring the fucking scientists that wrote the study. That's what we need. And when I said we need to build an army of scientists willing to attend these hearings, she was like, I'll do it.
Yeah. I know. Well, here's the thing. When INCO was first created, I don't know if you guys were at that GFN in 2016, but Clive Bates got up and he said, listen, you know, there needs to be a consumer voice and there needs to be a science voice. And the scientists speak the science and the consumers speak the consumer. So when we decided to set up CAPHRA, what we did is we have the consumers and then we have an expert advisory group, and Ileana's on that. And those are the people that we ask when we need to make submissions. Guys, can you make your submissions? So that when we do this, We're getting the consumer side and we're getting the science side. And that's the way you get through to these people. It can be a problem. I'm a unicorn. Yeah, okay. I'm kind of a unicorn in that I understand the science for the most part. I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty clued up on the science. Most consumer advocates, it can be very dangerous if they start spouting science and talking science, speaking science with these people, because they really don't understand it to the level that if they get questioned, they'll be able to answer it. So sometimes I think it's better that you allow the scientists to do the science. The problem with that, of course, we're lucky in CAPHRA because we do have an expert advisory group. But the problem with that is that a lot of scientists are kind of like cops and doctors. They don't want to speak out against other people because of their reputations, because of the way those circles kind of work.
Well, look at Dr. Glover.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look what they did to Mattawa, right? So it's one of those things where, getting back to the informed consumer, yes, a consumer should have a basic understanding of things, but a consumer should also understand that leave science to the scientists, because they're the ones that are better able to extrapolate the information, explain the information like Ileana did for you guys, and also support what the consumer is saying. Because a lot of us old timers, all the things that we were saying, 6, 7, 8 years ago, now the science is catching up. And now it's, we've been justified in what we've been saying. And that's how it's going to continue. So the consumers have to really talk about their stories, and they really have to talk about the impacts for them. Humanize it. If you've got consumers running around talking about science all the time, it kind of takes away that human factor. And that's the thing that we need right now, is we need the human factor. The citizen, I pay taxes, the I vape, I vote thing, right? I pay your taxes, I pay your salary. You need to listen to me. Mm-hmm. That's the way it has to work in order for it to be effective. We've been effective in the Philippines by doing that. It's sort of starting to kind of kick off a little bit in Indonesia, although they're not FCTC, but it has to be an agreement and a working relationship of all those parts together so that it covers the entire aspect of everything.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when we do have, Bill says in the room that sometimes scientists are dry. We have an amazing bit of luck though, because we do have a bunch of scientists that are in this area that are good speakers. Yeah. Eliana came on the show and made science seem like it was easy for us to understand. Dr. F can get on, and he has he doesn't. Obviously there's the accent, but other than that, I can understand what he's saying. Clive is very well understood. Alex and Colin are both very easy to understand. So, yeah, some scientists can seem like they're aliens and hard to understand, but we have a bunch of really good guys that can get up there and talk about medicine and science and stuff and make it easily understood. So I don't really agree that our scientists would be hard to understand.
I don't think they would be. No. We're much luckier now than we were 5 years ago, because we do have that group of people, the Raymond Naras and the David Abrams and David Sweener and all these. And this is something that, if we'd had this 5 years ago, I don't know, or 6 years ago, where would we be? But we didn't. So now we have it. So now we have to utilize it. And that's why I'm saying, just let them do the science. We need to understand what we're doing. We need to understand, it's great because our pocketbooks aren't getting hit with tobacco taxes and, our blood pressure's gone down, all that. We need to focus on giving our stories and not taking any crap from anybody because of it. Because without us, they have nobody to govern, kind of thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And, obviously this year, the global GFN was digital, and we were allowed, everybody was allowed to participate and view. And, there was a bunch of scientists there. I understood everything that they were saying, So yeah, I don't I don't believe that it would be that difficult for this to happen, especially now that we have a pandemic and people can't show up at a hearing in person. They can do Zoom and be on the other side of the planet and still be able to provide testimony.
But there's another thing about that pandemic too that we haven't touched upon. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room. A lot of these anti-people are using COVID as a justification for all this anti-vaping stuff. Now, I don't know if you guys saw the paper that CAPHRA kicked out, which basically was like a Cochrane review of the science on vaping and COVID. Mm-hmm. We have the additional burden, I would say burden, of countries. I'm going to try to explain this. Countries are suffering economically because of the closed borders and commerce and all of that. Okay, governments are trying to recoup some of that revenue. And a lot of the ways they're trying to recoup that revenue is through tobacco taxes and through taxing safer products or banning safer products because they can't tax them, but they can tax the thing that'll kill you. Okay, this is the other aspect of the battle that we're going to be fighting, especially this year in a COP year, even though I know it's not really relevant in the United States because they're part of it, but they're not part of it. I don't think they signed it and ratified it, but using the pandemic against us. Okay, we need to be aware that that's what they're doing. We need to take science that's out there. And when a government official says, well, vapors and smokers, well, take something from Farsalinos and Pelosa. They've already shown that nicotine could possibly be quite protective against COVID. They don't want to hear that either. But that kind of stuff, we can promote that, we can push that, we can show that, and we can have all, Raymond and all these other guys saying about it. But you've got to know your enemy. And this is the thing about consumer advocacy is if you know your enemy and you can understand where they're coming from, going back to like what I said about Bloomberg, okay, then you find the weak spots and those are the things that you can use. We have to work smarter, not harder. And yet it is harder because we don't have that face-to-face. And it's much easier to talk to a government official face-to-face because you're a real human being. You're not just somebody, through a computer screen. But we can do that. All right. And we need to do that. And that's my thing is about advocacy. People need to do it, work smarter, not harder. Seriously.
Well, I was talking to Nick Orlando from Florida here, and they're doing their hearings and all of their legislative sessions this year via Zoom. However, you can't just dial in from home. You actually have to drive to the building.
Typical.
They go through the testing and everything, and go into a separate room where there's a computer, and then provide your testimony from a room in the building that the hearing is in, instead of being able to dial in from your house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're even making it difficult.
Bro, oh my God, New Zealand. Let's talk about New Zealand for a minute. So they opened up the consultation for the proposed regulatory framework for vaping products that were legalized last year. Okay, and now we've got this framework. The submission process is very similar to the one that was in the UK for that SHEAR report. They have made it so difficult for people to be able to actually make submissions. Why are they doing that? Is it an oversight? I don't know. It looks to me as if they know in a way that the harder they make it, the less motivated people are going to want to be to actually make those submissions. They've kind of screwed themselves because it's me. So they should know better. I'm going to have online, like class to help people work their way through this ridiculous regulatory framework. But by looking at this framework, when all of us looked at it, we were like, they didn't listen to anything anybody said, or they didn't ask the right questions. So now it's one of these things we're back again, having to tell them what is going to work. We've had self-regulation in New Zealand for like 4 years now, and it's worked perfectly well. Yeah. We submitted that whole thing to the Ministry of Health. They were like, yep, this is good. We want risk proportionate. We don't want to have it onerous. We don't want to have it, punitive. And then they throw this pile of crap at us. Okay. And it's like, wait a minute, we have to address the pile of crap. But they've made it so difficult. So then it's up to us, the consumer advocates and the people that kind of do understand all this, to help people to be able to get their voices heard. It shouldn't be this hard.
No.
They're making it hard. So we have to be louder. We have to be smarter. And that's what we're going to have to do. I mean, in New Zealand, it's, the thing about New Zealand, and I've said this for years, is New Zealand will impact Australia somewhat. Australia, it's a completely different animal. I love you guys. I love you guys, but your government, and Australia then influences the rest of Asia Pacific. So we have got to get this right, because if we don't get this right, everybody else is going to follow suit. We were given a blessing in disguise when it got out about Bloomberg and for the Philippines. That was a blessing in disguise, because that opened up that whole can of worms about the shenanigans that have been going on with the union, specifically in Asia Pacific. Mm-hmm. They've been doing it to you guys for years. I talked to Julie and I was just like, what? She's like, yeah, they've been doing this for years. But let's be smart about this. Let's not directly attack Bloomberg without evidence and proof. Because, and I said this to you, Patrick, the other day when you and I were talking, is the more you talk and the more you yell and the more you scream, the more it's like a toddler. When you have a toddler, if you're a parent, you'll understand this. If you have a toddler and the toddler's sitting there screaming, yelling, eventually you tune out. I don't want to hear this. You tell, whatever. Wait for your moment and zing them. And that's what we have to do with this whole Bloomberg thing. Okay. Yeah. And the evidence is coming out and the information is coming out smarter, not harder. And that's just the way we have to operate. And I mean, I'm hoping that this whole thing, I'll get people through this whole New Zealand thing as well as I possibly can. And it will impact Australia and in turn, everybody else in the rest of the region. But there's a lot of work involved and a lot of consumers. And I love people that, have switched to vaping, but a lot of consumers are like, oh, I found it. I don't need to do anything else. No, it doesn't work like that. Yeah. You can't just walk away. You have to help the next person. You have to pay it forward. This is why it's worked so well. This is why you have the ability to vape, is because the older people from the old days, the OGs, were the ones that paid it forward so that you would have access to this. Yep. You got to keep carrying the baton. People need to understand that. I think if people just go, I can't deal with it. Well, no, that's not an option. You have to.
Yeah. I mean, we're at the point now where American states are actually looking at Australia for model legislation.
I know.
Did you see that your home state, New York, introduced a prescription model legislation? And I'm like, really?
Yeah. And, there are people in New York that I've actually from New Zealand managed to switch over to vaping from New Zealand. Okay. And now they can't get their shit.
Well, I mean, and it's going to even be more impossible if they put in a prescription model, because no fucking doctor in the state of New York is going to write you a prescription for e-liquid or for nicotine for e-liquid.
It's
never going to happen.
It's a mini Australia.
Yeah. Except that in Australia, there's 9 doctors that will
12,
write.
I think it's 12 now.
Oh, she was on the show last week and said 9, but that's okay.
I think it's 12 now. But the thing is, what they don't understand, okay, is if you're in public health and you're supposed to be protecting public health, the last thing you want is an unregulated black market. And that's exactly what all these things are going to create.
Well, New York is good at developing black markets.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's like the epicenter of black market creation.
Who cares?
Used to be able to go into Chinatown and get a license and a passport so you could have ID to go into the clubs.
Yeah. Could go into Chinatown and buy a knockoff anything.
Go get a license so you can go into clubs in the summer.
You want a Prada? You can go to Chinatown and get a Prada bag. You can go to
I didn't do that. I went and got a license.
Movies,
but the thing is, when you create a black market, it's an unregulated black market. Now you're putting people at risk. So now you're doing the complete opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. You're not protecting public health. You're causing harm.
No, you're public harm. That's what you're promoting there is public harm. But it's crazy. I mean, obviously, my wife is from the Philippines, so I'm always paying attention to what the hell's going on in the Philippines. And you know, 2 years ago when the president of the Philippines made his comments about vaping and that he was going to order his police to arrest people that were vaping and all this stuff. And luckily, 6 or 8 months ago, the actual legislature in the Philippines was like, no, we'll pass a public ban. We'll do this. You can't vape in public and all this, but at least the cops in the Philippines aren't going to arrest you for having e-liquid now. But I'm always paying attention to what the hell's going on because I have a home there. One of these days I might want to live there. So, it's crazy. And then when the Bloomberg story came out, everybody's like, ooh, but
I mean, the thing about the Philippines, all right, I love going to the Philippines. I've got some great people that I hang out with in the Philippines. Philippines is like my second home, but that in Bangkok, but we're not going there right now. I was shocked about smoking is allowed at 18, but vaping is 21. I was like, what the hell is this? What is this?
We had a state here try to pass legislation like that the vaping age was actually higher than the smoking.
But yeah, you know this. You walk down the street in Manila and you see like a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old smoking in a back alley. Yeah. Oh, but this is okay.
Hey, when you're stuck in traffic in Manila, little kids will come up and try to sell you bottled waters and different things.
Oh yeah, when you're on the edge,
try to sell you singles too.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the same thing in India. I mean, I don't know if you guys have spoken to Samrat yet, but it's the same thing in India.
Yeah.
Why? Well, and in Asia, it's got the United States to a certain extent. I'll get into that later if you want. But in India, in Thailand, in Indonesia, the government has the tobacco interests. So they don't want anything to threaten that.
Yep.
Again, we're back at money, aren't we? We're back at money again.
It's always about money.
It's always about money.
I mean, obviously here in the States, we have the Master Settlement Agreement. We've talked about it ad nauseum. The states collect a lot of fucking money from cigarettes. If you think that the tobacco industry is hurting because of any payments to the Master Settlement Agreement, your head's up your butt. I mean, all they did was turn around and add that price increase for those payments back onto the consumer.
Yeah,
yes, but there's another aspect of that too, from what I've read, is that a lot of states were they kind of forecast their budgets on those PMTA payments.
Well, no, yeah, no,
and those payments didn't come in, and those states went belly up.
Well, what happened was they took out bonds based on estimates, current, 20 years ago, current smoking use and sales at that time. They took out bonds, and those bonds all came up due in the last couple years, and either they had to refinance those bonds or they had to default on those bonds. And pretty much every one of those states just refinanced those bonds.
Yes, but now we have COVID, and now economies are crippled. What's going to happen in a year or two or 5 years when they come due again?
Well, there's this whole idea that the big money people are putting out there into the world that this inflation essentially that's going to occur because of the pandemic and stuff. The government's just going to print more money.
Doesn't work well. Reaganomics, anybody?
So what they're saying is this is vaccinated loss.
Yeah.
I mean, these assholes that are pushing these policies. I mean, obviously everybody wants. I never got a fucking stimulus check. We didn't get those. I didn't get those.
What do you mean you didn't get a stimulus check? You should have gotten one.
I didn't get one because they said that. I mean, my wife and I both have jobs. We both work. We both work in healthcare, and we apparently make too much money to qualify. So we didn't get one. But everybody else that got one is happy to get $600 or $1,200 or whatever. Literally not enough money to pay their rent, let alone their rent, their electricity, their cable. for a year.
Yeah, no,
Literally, I mean, we got 2,000, or people got to about $2,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If they're out of work, if they work in hospitality or whatever, $2,000 is not going to keep a roof over their heads.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. I mean, when I lived in the States before I moved to New Zealand, I think the mortgage was $1,500 a month. And that didn't include the insurance because it was Florida, or the taxes. So yeah, it's nothing really. It's a drop in the bucket. It's almost like the carrot and the stick, you know? There needs to be a better way. I don't know what that better way is, but I'm concerned that governments are going to use this as a way of revenue gathering.
Look how pretty we look on Fig's big screen TV.
I look like an idiot. Look at me. My eyes are closed.
Well, you can get mad at Fig. He's the one that took the picture. He's having an Inception moment at home now. If he's sitting on the couch watching, he's just had an Inception moment.
Me on big screen. I'm so sorry. Condolences.
Fuck. He's petting his pup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this pandemic, obviously, it fucked a lot of people. I don't think that one person. I don't think that President Trump handled it any better or worse than anybody else. This is for us in our lifetimes, nothing like this has ever happened. I don't care who you support politically. I think that ultimately we're fucked. You know, literally, this is going to take us decades to crawl out from under.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I think I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not pointing fingers at the orangutan, and I'm not pointing fingers at the forgetful old man that's in there now.
It sounds like you're talking to me on both accounts, but all right.
Okay, but yeah, literally, this situation was something that no one could have predicted, and sadly, the vaping industry is one of the casualties of this whole thing here in the States, at least. I mean, obviously. I've seen estimates that say that over the last 2 years or so, 3,500 more vape shops closed in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's either because of the bottom dropping out after the 16 boom. 2016 was a huge year for vaping. You know, many e-liquid millionaires were formed during that time, and then. Obviously, with the Juul demonization and all the bullshit and dragging through the mud. I mean, obviously the scare stories have changed. I mean, this is fear porn. We had
fear porn. That's good.
We had fear porn stories in Time magazine saying that dripping was akin to freebasing heroin.
Yeah, I know. I saw some of them.
So, I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people forget that we were being drugged through the mud even before E-Valley and even before the Juul horror stories. We've had a continuous media campaign against vaping since about 15. It's just that they got the right combination of things right when E-Valley happened. But I mean, obviously the decline didn't start at E-Valley. It was already declining, and then when E-Valley hit, it went straight down.
And it almost makes you wonder if that wasn't actually, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, if that wasn't actually, I'm not, if that wasn't actually something that was really pushed and promoted to help accelerate the situation with vaping. Because those carts were around probably, I know people that were importing them from about 2015, 2014, they were importing those carts. Those carts have been around for a while. Okay. It almost like it was handed to them. And it was almost like money was invested to make sure that really exploded the way it did.
And then it was ignored specifically.
And then it was ignored specifically. And the same thing with the Juul situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can actually prove we covered the Evali thing before Evali happened. Fig was on the show. Fig follows the hemp market and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought a story to our attention in Leafly that was out, I want to say, a month and a half before Evali hit the mainstream media here. And it was in a Leafly is a pot magazine. It was in the pot magazine, and it was basically saying, y'all need to be on the lookout for this. This is not good. This is going to impact us heavily. And we sent warnings. We've notified people, and obviously Kevin has a memo somewhere on his hard drive where specifically the Surgeon General was copied into this stuff from a month and a half before and did nothing. So we know that people knew. We were talking about it. It happened. So
I believe that was August. The first cases were in New York that they did research on, and he was like in October or November saying, "I'm looking at it. We're not sure what it is yet, but we're getting close."
Yeah, it's like Chugga just said. It was orchestrated, and like a bastard. I don't know what your real name is, darling. Is
He's
saying,
a bastard.
Well, I know it feels funny calling somebody a bastard, and I'm not mad at them, but they waited on it. They sat on it until they could use it. I mean, and that's the machine.
They sat on they sat on the proof. Like we knew in August what it was.
Yeah.
That article specifically said, it's this component, it's this, blah, blah, blah. This is what's doing it. And they knew. And then when I confronted the Surgeon General and he said, no way would we ever want to drug test these people. No. What's really funny though is today, Jennifer Berger Coleman shared a video of an ER nurse specifically talking about urinalysis, that we're not here to bust you. We're not here to get you in trouble. We just need to know what the hell's wrong with you. And one of the ways we do that is to check your urine. It was kind of funny because I was going to steal it and tweet it at the Surgeon General. But then I remembered he's not relevant anymore. So why should I bother?
I miss Jerry.
So I mean, it's like Ed saying, the filming of the victims in the hospital beds. And then eventually they came out. This is the other thing. And this is, I get pissed at the media, and Cronkite must be spinning in his grave. Let's put it that way. They come out with this story, right? And then the truth comes out, but you notice how they don't put the retraction and give it as much.
If they ever decide to retract or to do an errata or to make changes to an article, it'll be on the front page. The actual article will have been a front page article. The retraction or errata will be on the very bottom of the classified ads in section E 3 or 4 days later.
Yeah. I mean, look at the WHO. They used all these Glance studies, all this bullshit from Glance, right? That has now been retracted, but drink.
That's a drink word.
That's a drink word. And yet they're still using those references in their documentation. I mean, if you look at this Commit to Quit campaign, right? And you look at all the information and the data in there, they're still referencing Glance. And it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, to be perfectly fair, only one Glance study has been retracted.
2.
No, only one has officially been retracted.
Oh, okay.
The on Retraction Watch, they did release a thing on Retraction Watch that basically said that once this one got retracted and they understood what happened, they're now investigating other ones, but only one has actually officially been retracted.
But the thing is, the reality of it is once you've had an article retracted, conceivably everything that you've done,
everything
you put under a microscope.
Especially when especially when they've basically showed in the retraction and into researching what happened was that they specifically doctored that. They specifically only used certain data from, because he doesn't do any science.
No.
It's cherry picking.
All he does is meta-analysis. All he does is
cherry picking, and everybody knows that.
It's a puzzle.
But it serves the purposes of the people who use it.
Purposefully omitted stuff.
Yeah, and they do it. Yes.
And he knew that the people that had the heart attacks before they started vaping, and he still published. Even after people even after the peer review guys questioned it.
Yeah, but Patrick, here's the thing. I'll go back to that BMJ article, okay, that's currently we're trying to get a retraction on. They accused ASA from India of being I guess a mouthpiece for PMI Thailand. And yet down at the very end, they say, well, we don't have, concrete proof. This is an inference. But the fact that the BMJ published that without, and that's a peer-reviewed journal, right? Mm-hmm. Peer-reviewed journals will actually publish such bullshit and risk. They don't care about, I don't think they give a shit about, I don't think they care about the retraction, because once it's out there, you can't pull that back.
No.
So they're using those tactics. And really, when you're a scientist and you're a professional and you're an academic, that goes against everything that you're supposed to be doing. And why are they not getting called out on it? Why is it not? I mean, Glance is a different story. We're not even going to go there. Drink, Kevin. But they're starting to use their own, they're starting to use their own peer-reviewed methods and journals to get this information out there. That's what it's,
That's
the thing is we still see the heavy metals, the formaldehyde study. We still see those studies being regurgitated after they've been retracted.
Exactly.
After the study author has basically admitted, hey, we got those results by not understanding the technology and pushing the technology past any level of safety. But you still see that. You still see the nickel and the cadmium and the formaldehyde, even after that has happened.
Yeah, so it's a matter of, and this is going back to the media thing, okay, is once you get something out there, okay, and this is why Cronkite's spinning, right? Once you get it out there, it's out there, and then now you're in the court of public judgment, and you're screwed.
You can't unpull a trigger.
Jerry said we want America's communities to police this. We want America's communities to have their say. That's exactly what it is, Nancy. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so it puts everybody, so it's actually, I feel like we're sitting inside of, junior high, the lunchroom in junior high, at recess or whatever. And, it's us versus them. Yeah. And somebody starts a rumor, and they start that rumor, and that rumor goes out, and it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Everybody believes it because, wow, it's salacious, or it's, ooh.
If it bleeds,
it's not me this time, That's what's going on. And I mean, they should be better than that. I'm sorry. I hold them to a much higher standard, all of them to a much higher standard. And I'll call them out on it too. Because if you're an expert, act like one.
Yep.
Well, now you're asking for too much.
Of course, I'm always asking for too much, but that doesn't
mean you're asking for too much.
Mattawa said something to me once. This is a couple of years ago. She goes, ask for what you want. Ask for more than what you want, and you'll be lucky if you get half of it. And she's right. She was right.
Yep.
So, Kevin.
What?
Kevin, did you see this thing on Twitter? Did you see this thing on Twitter? This thing right here. I'm gonna put it on your screen.
Oh my God, Mickey
Mouse.
So,
Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids.
Yeah, I saw that.
That Michael Bloomberg is uniquely qualified to serve as the WHO Global Ambassador for Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries.
Yep.
As non-communicable diseases and injuries account for over 74% of deaths globally and worsen outcomes for COVID-19, We need urgent action to save lives. So
how many lives has he saved so far?
Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids says that this asshat is uniquely qualified to serve as some sort of ambassador for medical stuff.
Yeah, you know why they're saying that, though, right? You know that he gives like them millions and millions of dollars, and that's what's keep floating the WHO and the FCTC. That's why they're saying that.
Yeah.
He's their funder.
So I said, I tweeted to them. I said, so a big checkbook is just as credible as years of research and academic achievements.
Yeah, perfect.
That's perfect. That is exactly what their quote is basically saying. Is we're gonna. This guy is credible because he has a checkbook. Not because he has any fucking knowledge, not because he's a doctor or anything like that. So, this is one of those things. Obviously, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty scalpel sharp.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
That's fine. But the thing is, the people that he's ingratiated, I guess is the word, himself to all of these government people and all these public health people, because he's such a great guy, because he's helping us get clean water and he's helping us eradicate, these diseases by giving us money for vaccines. And so everybody thinks he's the greatest thing since, flush toilets. So if he does come up with something that's half-cocked and ridiculous, they're going to go with it anyway. They're not going to question it because A, they need the money for the programs that he's funding. And B, he's the great savior. He's the new Jesus Christ. Forgive me if you're Christian. I'm not trying to offend you. But, that's kind of the way they look at him. And that was done deliberately. That was deliberately done that way.
I mean, and it's the same playbook that Bill Gates uses.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go into a third world country in Africa. It's like Gates and Bloomberg have drawn a line across the world, and Bill Gates gets one half of the world, and Bloomberg gets the other, because obviously we see a lot of Bloomberg money all over the world, but he does tend to go to the east side.
Yeah, and Gates goes to the west side.
And Gates has Africa.
Yep.
So he goes into these countries in Africa and says, I'm going to write you a check for $1 million to upgrade your infrastructure for water purification, yada, yada, yada. Here's some medical clinic money to build medical clinics. But we're doing vaccine research for malaria, and we would like you to find 100,000 of your citizens to agree to take this experimental vaccine. And obviously Gates has already been fucked on that one. They're coming to find out now that a bunch of people got sick from one of his vaccines that he basically strong-armed the government to give. So that's a problem. And now we see that Bloomberg is also being caught out in making improper donations to the Philippines and probably other countries as well.
India. Yeah. It goes back to something you and I were talking about before we went live. And remember I said to you, I brought up Aldous Huxley and I brought up
Brave New World.
Yeah. Sometimes I sit there and I am like, Jesus. Hello. Yeah. Okay. And it goes down with the dumbing down of people, the classifying people, you're worthy, you're not worthy, the caste system, such as it were. That's what these guys are doing. It's almost, and we see it. You see it, everybody, I guess, watching this for the most part, we're all on the same page and we all see it. I'm pretty sure that these government people and these public health people see it too, but you know what? It serves them. So therefore they go along with it. And that's the problem.
Yes. So one of the things I wanted to point out to everybody, here in the States specifically, because I've got my Twitter thing loaded, so that's why it's on my head.
Exactly, Shannon.
Yeah. Look what they did to Michael Siegel. So on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow Kevin on Twitter, or I'm hoping Kevin's retweeted this, but Azim from Heckler and Keller and Heckman or whatever it's called. What's his legal firm? Keller Heckman, yes. Wrote a really cool piece explaining the PACT Act and what's going on. And I'm kind of sad that this thing only has 33 retweets and 34 likes. There's a lot of confusion going on. There's a lot of people saying things on social media about the PACT Act and what it does and what's going on. I had to educate somebody this week in one of the groups that they were upset because UPS and FedEx had voluntarily decided not to carry vape products. But we got to understand what the PACT Act entails. And regardless of whether obviously following the PACT Act is a big fucking deal. I mean, it's a lot of work. You got to get all your ducks in a row. You can't be out of compliance. You've got to make sure that you report each and every sale to the appropriate people. That UPS and FedEx may have just decided that it's too big of a fucking headache for them, and that's why. But people were basically blasting UPS and FedEx and saying that they wouldn't have to comply, and the law fucking states that yes, any person that carries tobacco products has to comply with the PACT Act.
Yeah, you have and the cost of compliance is ridiculous, and that's why a lot of them aren't even bothering because it's just the cost of compliance.
So everybody that uses these products and everybody that ships these products should be sharing this and reading it themselves to understand what the hell's going on. Because I'm not an expert, but I understand that being in compliance, and that means that each shipper and each carrier has to follow these very stringent rules. So it's a fucking headache. So
it's
there's
more than
reason.
that because it's also another way of shutting us down.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, obviously, this is the same thing as a ban without being a ban.
It's pretty much a ban, and it's not just in the United States; it's everywhere because so many people on this side of the world, on the Asia Pacific side of the world, get their stuff either from Europe through the United States. Okay, they're not going to be able to get it anymore. This also ties into this whole black market thing. They're handing it to China, basically, is what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, China doesn't care what they ship.
No.
And,
I used to get VG. I used to get Nick, and they'd mark it as VG and ship it to me. It's like, it's insane,
So,
but yeah.
Yep.
People need to understand that everything is interconnected, and it is, as like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if I sit here and I look at it and I go on my whiteboard and I start writing, and I can you can see all the lines, and all the lines lead to those philanthropists, those big money people.
The next time we see you on video, I want to see one of those serial killer walls behind you with all the pictures and the little yarn lines and stuff. I want you to find.
You just said you didn't like my lines.
That's true. I did say that.
No, this is casual. That is not going to happen the next time you see me on video. You can see that probably, or you'll see the green. Or you'll see me on the Advocate's Voice. Where I sit in front of a green screen, and then it gets all this cool shit.
You can get Eliana's board because behind her she has all that science, and you could just whiteboard it, and draw lines.
Yeah, battery shipped in a steel tube. Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, and no one is saying I'll tell you now, if I were to box up some e-liquid and take it to the post office and ship it, nobody at the post office cares. As long as it's not a fucking bomb, they don't care.
Nick and Jennifer
now,
are waiting for packages.
The people at the counter won't care.
Yeah.
But somebody cares. And
customs
at some point,
will pick it up, maybe.
Well, no, I mean, if I just were going to send something to Kevin, it doesn't have to go through customs, but
I know that
some machine or some putty's gonna, especially if you're a vape company and your address label says big time vape company or whatever, they're gonna fucking look. But we shouldn't have to see. The thing is all of this stuff is just making me into a criminal.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
The law was broken.
I will fucking break the law to save somebody's life.
Well, see, that's my thing. And that was my argument when we started OFCA. Stephen and Jan and I, when we started OFCA, it was like there's the legal thing to do and then there's the moral thing to do. I will always take the moral road over the legal road if it means somebody's life. So
Brett did a show this week that was about social justice. Is vaping a social justice issue?
It is.
I won't go there. What I will say is it's a fucking human rights issue.
It is.
It is.
It is. It's a human rights issue.
You know, there's the social justice argument. It's dirty. You can't use it.
No, it's not. It's not dirty. I think it's part of it because social justice
No. I'm saying it's people use that argument now. Oh, well, you're a social justice warrior, so I'm ignoring you. You know, here, at least in the States, it's become a very right versus left argument, the social justice warrior thing. But a fucking human rights thing, I can use that argument. You are preventing me from saving someone's life.
Yeah.
You are, you know, smokers. We've had all the fucking statistics. We've had all the people. Smoking affects a higher percentage of people of lower economic and socioeconomic levels, education levels, people of color more than people, white people. I can use that. We can use that argument. This is a fucking human rights issue. You are victimizing people who just want to not die.
Yeah.
You are making it harder for them to save their lives.
You're also contravening the UN and the WHO. Human rights.
I was like, what does that sound like?
Popular getting phone calls. Wow, must be nice late at night.
My phone. I'm getting a booty call.
Does your wife know?
It could be from my wife.
We hope it's from your wife. Happy birthday, Will.
52? Will, I never thought you were a day younger than 60.
See.
How mean I am?
You are. You're a dick.
Who's I like that.
She got my number.
Article 1 of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, 1D says tobacco control, in quotation marks, means a range of supply, demand, and harm reduction strategies that aim to improve the health of a population by eliminating or reducing their consumption of tobacco products and exposure to tobacco smoke. That's what they ignore. They ignore the first article, D. So
they focus on the control of supply and they ignore that bit. And that's why it's so interesting that they refuse to acknowledge tobacco harm reduction because it's right there.
It's the first part. I don't know.
Well, the only harm reduction. So this is one of the things that I think we failed at, for one thing, is a decade in, and we have, I mean, obviously we've mentioned it. We've talked about it a little bit, that vaping is safer than smoking and yada, yada, yada. But on a more visceral level, a more aggressive level, we never really engaged with other harm reduction people until the last year or so in a very vocal way, you know. And we've here, at least in the States, it's always been, well, you can't take away my rights.
Yeah, America. Yeah.
And you know, now that we've actually got to, because the only options left to us, especially now with a Democrat House, a Democrat Senate, and a Democrat presidency, at least for the next 2 years, is we have to engage with those people. And I've said it repeatedly, that we never really engaged with the Democrats in any other way than as an adversary.
No.
Yeah,
now we have to engage with them.
Okay,
in
this
a
is the way
friendly,
you do it.
conversive manner.
this is my suggestion on how you do it. And Chugga knows this because Chugga and I went to university together when we were getting our bachelors. I have always said to people, a lot of people are I don't know, afraid, I guess, to engage with their minister of parliament, which would be your state rep, okay, or your congressman or your senator, okay. And I say, you know what? It's kind of like that old saying they used to give us, when you have to give a speech at school, just picture everybody in their underwear, right? Kind of like that, but not really. Forget the titles. Forget, that they're a congressman or that they live in a fancy neighborhood or they drive a fancy car or whatever. Human. I keep coming back to this. You engage with someone as a human being. You agree to disagree to open up the conversation. And then you listen to what they have to say, and then you counter it respectfully. Now, if they come at you and they're not respectful to you, it's kind of like the mom and me. If some kid hits you first, walk away. If you can't, beat the crap out of them. Okay. You do the same thing, but you do it with your vote. You do it with, getting the word out. This guy's, whatever, he's done this. I tried to, what kind of, you don't represent me, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The best way to do that, especially with Democrats, okay, and getting back to that social justice issue that you don't really like, is, approach them as a human being, listen to what they've got to say, okay, but at the same time, make it very clear they work for you. And see, and in the United States, a lot of these guys, and it's here too to a certain extent, but in the States more so, they are more worried about staying in office than they are about any particular issue. And you've got to keep in mind that you've got to keep it short and sweet and direct, because they have the attention span of a tsetse fly, because they've got all this other shit going on. Okay, that's how you do it. You go in there as a human being and you try to engage with them as a human being. If they give you that, hey, dude, guess what? You work for me. I pay your salary. Sit down and listen. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but that's the way you do it. And people are afraid to do it, and that's why people haven't been doing it, Patrick, because they're afraid to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get you. I mean, obviously, I'm not one of those people. I've been in John Cornyn's office. I've met Ted Cruz. Good
luck with that. You can engage. Some you can engage. Sorry, I'm answering a comment.
Yeah.
You can engage with some of them. You've got to choose your battles. You've got to do your research and see who these people are and whether they be open to it. Some people are not going to be open to it. Okay, but some people will. And even if it's a rep, okay, in the States, for example, people say, a senator's more powerful than somebody from the House of Representatives. Possibly, yes. Yeah. But you got to start somewhere.
As far as that goes, legislation has to go through both houses here in the States. Yeah. So I don't think a senator is more powerful than a rep or a congressman. I just don't think that one is more important than the other, because they all have the opportunity to vote yes or no. I've said this many times on this show. To a politician, people are either A, money, or B, votes.
Yep, that's it.
And we say this "I vape, I vote" thing, and I hate to piss in a lot of people's Wheaties, but vast majority of people that use these products, and I'm not talking about people on Facebook, and I'm not talking about people on Twitter. I'm talking about the silent majority that use vapor products that are not engaged. But even some of the people that are engaged, obviously, the dialogue has always been that the Republicans are pro-vaping and the Democrats are anti-vaping. Mm-mm. That is the dialogue. So I actually was on another show about 6-8 months ago. It was somebody else's show, and they were like, well, I'm a single issue voter and vaping is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so you also are a firearms guy. I can tell that you're a gun guy. He's like, yes, I'm a gun guy. I said, so what if there's a politician that is pro-firearm but anti-vaping? Or vice versa. Oh, I'll let you have your vape, but I'm going to take your guns away. Mm-hmm. I'll go even further and say, hey, what if you're a LGBTQ I think I got them all.
I think you got
what
them.
if if you're an LGBTQ voter, and that's very important to you, having your rights as a trans person or a gay person or any of those other things,
Non-binary, whatever. Yeah.
whatever that is, are you going to vote for a Republican that wants to, make you stay what you don't want to be because he's going to give you vaping? I don't believe so.
Yeah. No.
So there is vast numbers of people that use these products that will not ever vote for the politicians that you think are pro vaping, just because of all the other things that are going on in their lives. So that's why we have to, instead of trying to talk vapors into voting for politicians that they don't like, let's target the politicians that they like and make them understand that vaping is not what they think it is. Yeah, which one do you think is going to be easier?
The latter. And I mean, and that's what Jan and I did here in New Zealand. I mean, Chugga can tell you about that too. I mean, many times walking through the beehive, which is our parliament, it's called a beehive. It looks like a beehive. And talking to these people, and some of these people, they're like, well, why does this matter? Well, this is why it matters. Okay. Do you know anybody in your family that smokes? Yeah. And are they healthy? And well, this is why this matters. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. You don't need to force the people to vote for a politician. It's like this. I voted for Biden because he was the lesser of two evils. He's still fucking evil.
They're all evil. All politicians are evil. But
so why would and I've said this on the show before, but if somebody were to offer you a shit sandwich or a shit sandwich with a slice of cheese on it, they're still both shit fucking sandwiches. Yeah. So voting for the lesser of two evils is just it's a fucking cop out. It's weak. Find the politician that's not a shit sandwich.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, if you only have two options, you do have to pick the lesser.
We didn't only have two options. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you know how I don't want to get into the political discussion.
It's that way of thinking, though. It's that way of thinking that only one of those two candidates could have won. So we have to vote for one of those people. If everybody would vote their conscience instead of falling into this hole by saying, oh, a third party will never win. Third party's never going to win because people think that way.
Yeah, but the third party also needs to do a lot more, get out there and get their names known and what they stand for. That's also on them as well.
Well, obviously this last election cycle, the Libertarian was denied. They were not allowed to participate in any of the debates.
Yeah, well, you see, and that's the machine.
Even though they met the legal threshold to be on the debates.
Yeah, and that's the machine. And then they should have fought that because that should never have happened.
But it was too late. I mean, they filed suits, but the suits never happened until after the.
Well, I know, but the problem with politics in the United States is that it's always been such a two-party animal for so long, okay, that people feel that if you're voting for a third-party candidate, you're throwing your voice away. That's not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, we actually got libertarians elected to state office here. But yeah, on a federal level, it's
on a federal level, it's money. It boils down to money again. I mean, the people that have the most money are the people that are the ones that get on the ticket. That's the way that works. It's a capitalist society.
Yeah, we had 7 candidates on the presidential list here in Texas, but obviously nobody knew who the hell they were because they were never allowed to participate. But I mean. We have to redefine. We have to rejigger. I mean, we're in the beginning parts of different, state things are starting up now. We've got stuff to happen that's going to happen in the next 4 weeks.
Paul.
I think every state will start in the next 4 weeks. So we have 4 weeks to decide what the hell how we're going to present this argument in a new way.
Yeah.
And even here in Texas, they've pre-filed a fucking flavor ban in Texas, which is asinine to me.
Yeah, Texas, really. It's everybody has to, first of all, everybody has to get their voice heard. They need to get over themselves and get their voice heard. That's number one. But number two, there's so much infighting over there from what I see on this from the outside looking in. The partner and I look at this and we're like, what's with the infighting? You know, you're all on the same fucking side. So why aren't you all just banding together and fighting together?
Well, there shouldn't be as much infighting anymore because there's only one fucking national trade organization now, as far as I can see. There's obviously there's only, luckily we've got the states have all, you know, we had Nick Orlando from Florida on 2 weeks ago. The states that are fucking fighting, that have been fighting, are still fighting and they're doing a good job. The problem is obviously the same problem that we've always had, except that even worse this time is that there's fewer vape shops. So there's fewer members to the state trade organizations, which means
there's less money in the bank account to pay for everything that needs to get paid for.
But, you know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Right now, I particularly am not waiting for guidance from some organization to tell me what to do.
You're probably better off doing it individually. If a whole bunch of individuals do it, it's probably more powerful.
I mean, I'm in a weird position where most of my representatives have met me, and I've had meetings with a good number of them. So I'm not saying that I'll get into the door the first thing, but they at least know who I am, and they'll pick up the phone, or somebody in their staff will respond to my emails. And they know where I stand. So hopefully the Texas thing won't be so bad, but nationally, on a federal level,
I think in that situation, because of all the infighting that had happened in the past, it's probably better if it's a whole bunch of individuals doing it. It probably, we have this idea in our heads, and then I'm saying this because the way CAPHRA operates. Okay, each organization, there's all the different organizations that are part of CAPHRA, and each organization does their own thing, and then the other organizations support them.
Yes.
In the United States, when you have an individual or an advocate in one state, let's just say, if all the other advocates, if you've got one advocate in each state, okay, 50 advocates, let's just say, and that's no disrespect to CASA or SAFAD or anything like that, okay. But if one advocate says, I have a problem here and I need help, all those other advocates should step up to the plate and help you. And then if you've got all these individuals coming up, then there's going to be a hell of a lot less of a chance of them saying, oh, it's an organized thing, or you're a big tobacco shill or whatever. You're just, Joe Blow from, Wichita or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the next thing they're going to come after people for is, oh, you're part of you're an organization, or that organization must be funded by, big tobacco, blah, 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 blah. So it needs to come from different individuals.
Yeah. Because, obviously we've already seen in the news in the last couple of weeks, Smoke-Free World's getting drugged through the dirt, and anybody that's in any way, shape, or form affiliated with Smoke-Free World is now, it's fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yeah.
So now they're going to also be targeted in that same way.
Yeah.
We're still trying to get Derek Yacht on the show. Just saying.
Yeah. No, the only issue with Smoke-Free World, and the reason Smoke-Free World, in my opinion, is getting attacked is because it's single funder. Now, when they originally were going to set that up, the way I understand it is it was supposed to be a bunch of different companies were supposed to be supplying, funding it. It wasn't supposed to be a single funder. That's what the problem is, and that's what they're jumping on. That doesn't mean that what they're trying to do is nefarious or evil or anything like that.
No.
But if it was multi-funded by different companies, it would probably be a lot less of a problem it would still be a problem because, of course, all these people, their mindsets, but it would probably be a lot less of a problem. They don't understand it, but then we're going back again to the idea of they don't want to understand it.
No.
They fall back on that old mindset. Oh, tobacco, they're evil. They're the Antichrist, whatever. Okay. As far as getting Derek on, I don't know. Good luck with that. He's a busy man.
No, he's already responded on Twitter that basically saying, oh, I should do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that, it's like trying to get Clive on. For Clive, it's a big deal because he's in Africa and the time differences is crazy. and finding time where Kevin can do it and I can do it and Clive can do it. That's the problem. But, we'll get him on. I'm excited about the quality of guests that we've had. And obviously I'm super excited because next week we actually get a guy who has done a TED Talk.
Who?
Mark Tyndall.
Okay, I know who that is. Yeah, okay. Good.
Yeah,
that'll be
Mark
good.
Tyndall's going to come on. He's like a TED speaker. So, we're actually getting people who are willing to come on and talk to us about harm reduction. I mean, he's a harm reduction guy. And I put Eliana up there, as far as I'm concerned, as one of the best guests we've ever had.
Yeah, she's good.
And what's really funny, Kevin will agree, all of these amazing guests that we've had on, the vast majority of them have been women.
Yeah, actually, yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, of course you would be okay with that. You don't have to gay. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay. I have a gay cousin. I have lots of gay friends. I just. But the thing is, women.
Well, and Kevin.
Stop it. Women tend to articulate themselves in more nurturing way, I guess. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to sound sexist, and Chug is going to rip me one for this, but Jan and I found that when we went to speak to these MPs, okay, you had these two 50-something-year-old women showing up, and a lot of them were shocked because they were expecting, a hipster dude with a beard and piercings and I mean, I've got tattoos, but you know what I'm saying. They were expecting that vision they had in their head of these are the people that vape. You got these two 50-year-old women going in there talking to you, and they're like, okay. Women tend to be a lot better at judging a mood and picking up on the vibe of the person and being able to, adjust the message that they're trying to deliver with a man specifically, simply because we've lived with them for all of our lives and we know how you guys are. We love you, but
yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Women have a certain, some men have it. I mean, my partner has it. He's actually pretty good with it. He's good with me and I'm difficult to figure out, but that's why you have the majority of the women. They can articulate themselves better and make it a more understandable than most men do. Yeah. We love you, but you guys are difficult to understand sometimes. Sorry.
We burp and scratch our butts all the time too. So
we burp and scratch your nuts. Your nuts. You guys are always scratching your nuts.
Barely want to wear pants. That's
Yeah. And that's just who you are. That's okay.
It's a thing.
Andrew, it'll go wherever we want it to go.
And we have boobs.
Andrew says, where is this going?
Like Chugga just said, and we have boobs. And yes, we can use that to our advantage.
Well, we had Amanda Wheeler on the show who coined the hashtag NUTO, NUTO, when going into a Trump meeting with Parscale, the crazy guy. NUTO is nose up, tits out.
That's what she said.
I did not, and we did not pressure her into creating that. She said that she will use the assets that were given to her to protect and save her industry so that she can save smokers. So,
well, you guys do have a thing for boobs. I will say that.
Yeah, but mine don't do anything.
Boobs are good.
So, in the last 4 months, we've had Kellyanne Forbes from Vape World. We've had Hennage.
Yeah.
We've had Sam Ratt. We had Lindsay Stroud, Chugga, Phil Basardo. We had Charles Gardner. We've had Eliana Goldberstein Rubashkin.
There you go.
Aaron Biebert. We had Marwa Glover. We've had Senator Holly Hughes. We had Nancy Loucas. So we had Bard was in there, but poor Bard was having technical difficulties. We still need to get Bard back on from Norway. I made him come on at like 4:00 in the morning his time.
You're evil, but Bard's cool, so he wouldn't mind doing it.
No, he was fine with it. But yeah, he was having such horrible internet problems. It was
Hey, I'm surprised my connection's pretty stable today because I mean, Hennig and the people in CAPHRA will tell you that a lot of times it's like my connection is just like shit. So we're lucky today.
Yeah. We had Hennig on like the couple days after Eddie Van Halen died. It was sad. It was
sad. That was
a
bad.
sad day. Yeah.
Mm.
But so Nancy, you said you had 2 hours and we are at 1 hour and 56 minutes.
I know. I can see that too. It's right here on the screen.
Well, I know, but I didn't want to make you feel like we were keeping you from going out to dinner.
Now because you said 2 hours, so see ya.
That was a beautiful woman's touch right there. We can see it right here, Patrick.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
I know, no.
I don't want her partner getting mad at me for keeping him from food.
He's not going to be mad. He's sleeping right now.
Oh, well, fine then. So, what's going on in the other countries that you are part of? That you're.
Okay. Well, you know about Australia. You know about New Zealand. Hong Kong is looking to regulate heated tobacco products, but not e-cigarettes, simply because heated tobacco products are easier to understand than e-cigarettes. That's the justification. So they're discussing that now. However, we're not sure if that's actually going to go through because they will have an election, which was postponed because of COVID. So if they don't figure it out by like February or March, that may also get tossed out too. So right now they're still like in limbo. South Korea, heated tobacco is legal. There's been some arguments about that. They're trying to pull it back. I don't know if that's going to happen. Vietnam is looking to ban everything. Right now, Vietnam sits in a place where if the Vietnamese tobacco company brings it in, it's okay. Now they're looking to ban everything because they think, they're using science from 6-7 years ago and saying it causes brain damage and stuff. Whatever. India's a ban. You know that. There doesn't look like there's going to be much change with that. Thailand, there's talk sometimes that they're looking to legalize for tourists, but not for the real people. But then you still have the Ash guy over there who is just so anti. He's like their version of a certain Simon Chapman in Australia. Indonesia. Yeah. Indonesia's looking, drink. Indonesia's looking to regulate. Malaysia is looking to regulate. I'm trying to think. China, China is just China. Where else do we have right now? What's going on? That's pretty much the state of affairs. Pakistan, it is not legal or illegal. It's just not regulated. There has been some talk about trying to regulate and then ban, but the guy in Pakistan, we just brought a new guy in, Mirza from Pakistan. So Pakistan's on board now, and they're working towards trying to educate people and get them to understand that this is better, this is healthier, this is safer, let's just say. But, what's going on in India is going to affect Pakistan. And just like what happens in Indonesia affects Malaysia, like what happens in New Zealand affects Australia and vice versa. So there's all these different, situations in different parts of the world that are in different stages. A lot of it hinges, and it's sad to say, a lot of the things that hinge in Asia Pacific hinge on Australia. Because a lot of those doctors were trained in Australia. So we just take it at a time and submit at a time, when there's a submission.
Yeah. Just because China manufactures something doesn't mean they're going to let their people actually use them.
Exactly. They're not.
They will let anything get made there as long as they can make some money. But that doesn't mean that they're going to allow their people to use those products.
Yeah. And H just reminded me, Singapore has banned all e-cigarettes and all future technologies. Yeah, Singapore, you don't want to, and Chugga and I know this because we transit through Singapore. You've got to be so careful.
All future technologies.
Yeah, no, Singapore's been anti-vaping for as long as I can remember. And vaping, I mean, I had a friend that was going through Singapore and they took his Provaria away years ago. And that was painful. I mean, that's back in the day when the Provaria was like the Ferrari of vaping devices.
Mm-hmm. I had one.
Well, I have like 6 or 8 of them over here, but I still use them. But they're more, as far as I'm concerned, it's more like the Rolls Royce of vaping now. But back in the day when variable voltage was just really coming out, that Provari 2 or 2.5,
Yeah.
that was a big deal. Everybody was what everybody was building up to, or everybody was saving money for, was a Provari.
Yeah, I had one and the partner had one. Neither one of us can find our Provaris, which sucks.
I'm
can't find
a huge Provape guy. I love Provape. I cried the day they went out of it. They closed the doors.
Yeah.
It was that, Anywho, not to get maudlin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the black market is going to be strong everywhere.
Jay just said something. Hold on. Jay just said something about Canada. Hi, Jay. Hi, hon. Nicotine caps in Canada and 30 mil max on bottled e-juice. Yeah. Canada was doing so well, and then Canada just went completely backwards, and that's kind of what New Zealand's doing too.
Well, and it depends on what their nic cap is. I mean, there is a reasonable argument that 36 milligrams is enough.
And I agree with you. But like for example, we presented that in New Zealand, and they came back at us and they said they only want 20 milligrams freebase and 50 milligrams nic salt here in New Zealand. That's a proposal. So they're going backward. Everybody's going backwards, and a lot of it has to do with that WHO tobacco study group report, because that study group report is suggesting that everyone ban open tank systems.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta realize that they don't want.
Jay says 20 milligram too in Canada. They're
or 20 milliliter or 20 milligram.
30 mil bottle, 20 milligram nic cap.
So yeah.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah,
I mean, Yvonne is also a Canadian, is reiterating. It's that's the same thing that's in the UK, right?
The UK is 72 milligram DIY base, 20 pre-made. Yeah, EU.
And they have a 10 mil bottle, or the
10 mil bottle.
Obviously they're Brexiting, so.
They're trying to back it out, and they're going to change that. Hopefully, Clive's not too convinced, but we have to wait and see. They are reviewing it. Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where they don't. I mean, obviously, if we had an international standard, it would make it too easy for businesses to cross borders, right? So they want to have each country have their own fucking rules to make it even more difficult for people to cross borders to sell product in different countries.
Yeah, but the EU has a standard that's EU wide, and
they do. But the TPD is not universally enforced across all countries that are in the EU.
It's not that it's not universally enforced. The problem with the TPD in the EU is that it's interpreted differently in different countries.
Well, yeah. It's
the interpretation. It's not the enforcement. It's the interpretation. There is a difference.
But yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what your business practices are in Greece are not the same business practices that they do in Germany and so forth and so on. So, because each one of those member nations does interpret and enforce the rules differently than what other countries do. But, having 50 different islands prevents unification and one unified defense.
Yeah. There's a reason. It's called divide and conquer.
Yes. That's what I was getting to.
I know.
We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, Dave used to use 54 milligrams, Ed. You're right.
Oh, I mean, Julie Wasser tried to kill me one time with like 60 milligram.
I remember somebody tried to get me to drip 48. I almost died.
Yeah. Her when I met her the very first time, she was dripping an HH357 on an Opus D at an event, and she pulled out this little green bottle of e-liquid, and it was that hard plastic that they used to have, and she put a couple drops in, and she said, "Oh, vape this." Tried to kill me.
Bernie, you're
and
right.
I was vaping 18 at the time, and everybody was looking at me like I was a mutant. And here she is vaping like 60.
Yeah, well, when I started, I mean, it was 24 was what I could tolerate. I couldn't do the 48 or the 36. I was doing 24, and I was dripping it.
I started on 36, and I was on 36 for a very short period of time, but then I was on 18 milligram for about 4 years.
Yeah, mouth to lung.
And then I'm down to 12 and 8. I'm mostly 12, but if I get really mad, I have some 18 milligram floating around that'll
Shannon, Julie is awesome. I'm on 3. Yeah. I've gotten myself down to 3, but with me, it's more the hand to mouth thing than the nicotine thing. I do have a pod. I have a Caliburn that I use with salts, but the salts are only 20 because I can't do anything more than 20 or I get the spins.
Yeah, I do not like nicotine salts at all. I don't like the way my body feels when I vape them.
And it explains a lot as to why those kids were using the Juuls. It was like the old time.
Yeah.
Like, remember we used to smoke, non-filtered Pall Malls. We steal your grandfather's non-filtered Pall Malls and you get that. Woo! Yeah. That is the modern equivalent.
I smoked Lucky Strikes and Camel Filterless and Chesterfields. So, I totally.
Yeah.
There's anybody in the South will know this brand, but there's a Southern regional, or there used to be at least Southern regional cigar or cigarette brand called Picayunes.
Okay.
And Picayunes were filterless cigarettes. And on the side of the package, on most cigarettes at the time, and even the cigarettes now, will say 20 Class A cigarettes.
Yep.
On the side of the Picayunes, 20 Class B cigarettes. Because it was much more harsh, and it wasn't maybe the best tobacco. But yeah, like they would kick you.
Spirit. Those American Spirit cigarettes are nasty. Yeah.
There was a hell of a throat or throat hit, chest hit.
These have a kick.
Yeah. And I smoked those because they were like 10 cents cheaper a pack than everything else. I mean, obviously, when I started smoking, cigarettes were 60 cents a pack. So, that's how old I am.
Not limiting nicotine strength.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the argument, Kev. That's the argument, is if you limit it, people naturally will titrate themselves down.
Right.
And over here, we had a guy called Hayden McRobbie who made the argument that if you allow people to have higher nic, they're puffing less. So if you have higher nic and you're puffing less, that's less harm that you might be causing by, just the fact that actually you're inhaling something. Yeah. So that's why it was so shocking to see what New Zealand came out with. Because obviously they didn't understand that a lot of people, especially people in their 50s and 60s, they don't like nic salts.
Right. Yeah, I tried it. I tried a Juul knockoff just so I could. And the experience, because we were all smokers at one time, the experience was like going from a Marlboro Light here with 18 to a 50 salt was like a Camel non-filter. I was like, holy crap. But had I been smoking and immediately taken one, I get it. I get why they work. So
see, I didn't get any throat hit off of the Juul at all. All I got was a head fucking
the
it
buzz.
made me dizzy.
It's like that buzz, like when you're drinking.
It was smooth as hell.
Right before you're about to puke or pass out. That feeling.
I didn't get any throat hit. I didn't get any kick. It was smooth as shit, and the next thing you know, I'm spinning. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't like. They make me spin. Paul, I've tried all sorts of different nic salts, and they still make me spin because even Ileana had me try different types. Still, I got the spins. I'm just not. I don't regret. Liana, have at it. I have no problem with what somebody needs to use that keeps them off of cigarettes. Yep. I have a problem with somebody telling me you can only use this.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I have a problem with.
The old days, we would argue that, well, I smoke Marlboro, so here, smoke a real man cigarette. That's an ultralight. Here, have one of these. No, you like what you like. I like what I like.
Yeah, if you're not smoking Marlboro Red, you're not really smoking.
Right. Stop nicotine shaming.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
All right, guys, let me go.
Yep.
It's been lovely.
Okay,
I hope we covered everything we're
bye.
supposed to cover. And if we didn't, I apologize.
Well, it's not like we can't find you.
Yeah, you need to find me.
And I've linked you a couple times.
Thank you,
Yes,
Darla.
Kevin
And,
is stalking you.
That's okay. Just so you know, there'll be a new Advocate's Voice coming out in the middle of the month, and then we're having a webinar that will be announcing all the information on that on the 1st of March. So please come, please join, please share.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you guys think of anything you want me to cover on the Advocate's Voice, let me know too. Flick me a message.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
She left us.
She left us. I'm trying to find there. There it is. YouTube.
Now we can be naughty.
Yeah.
Now we
It's
can be naughty.
So they have, CAPHRA has a Twitter. CAPHRA has a website. CAPHRA has a YouTube.
They have all the stuffs.
And I found their YouTube accidentally the other day doing Vapors UK news.
How are you writing Vapors UK news?
Hey, I know people. Leave me alone. I've been doing that for like 4 years, 5 years. I don't even know.
I know, but it seems odd to me that you're in Ohio.
Yeah.
Don't they have like people in the UK that vape that care enough to write about their own?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few news hounds. Quite a few.
Yeah. I'm just fucking. With you.
I don't know for sure exactly how they picked me specifically, but I was already blogging, and it kind of went with that. You know.
Yeah.
I already knew their style. What is it? WordPress. I think that's probably why.
WordPress. I had a we had a WordPress site for the vaping militia.
Yeah,
and we stopped paying for it, and they erased our page.
Oh, they didn't go back to free.
And then somebody bought our domain, which I thought was kind of cruel. But you know,
that is cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Hey, DeSanglis is in the chat room. Did you see that?
I told her I was advocating for her shipment, and you're just sitting there pissing in the wind. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. There, we got about 2 or 3 drink words out of that.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm still baited. I don't want to send it until I know for sure that it's perfect.
Ron's in the room now. See, Jennifer's in the room now.
But this is really good, Kevin.
I'm sure it is.
This is really good.
I know.
It's a Dominican cigar.
Yeah.
With coffee and cream.
Yeah.
And a little bit of bourbon.
Well, you got my attention with coffee and cream, but no. Jennifer still doesn't have her stuff.
You would still like. I think if I sent you a bottle of this, maybe I'll send you a bottle. I think you would like this.
You're going to send it to me before you send it to them, aren't you?
That would be mean, wouldn't it?
That would be rotten.
I mean, it is named Logan. It is named Logan.
Bastard rotten.
So
just send them their shit.
Well, I think that she has possession of her own shit. I don't want to have anything to do with her shit, sir.
She's on the East Coast, isn't she? Somewhere North Carolina, South Carolina.
She's in one of those Carolinas. What?
She can hop a flight and be in your face in 4 hours.
Then she'd have to quarantine for 14 days before she could come kick my ass.
That's true. That's true.
Jay, it's from my lab. Jay says he wants a bottle. Maybe I'll send Jay a bottle in Canada. Oh, Hamish, you want? I should. Hamish, send me your email or send me your address so that I can send you the cigar. Then if that
you're all. Jen's sister lives in Texas.
But she still has to quarantine for 14 days.
She's going to send her sister.
Is that the sister that said? I
don't know.
That she was an idiot. There was one thread where I was like picking on Jennifer about her younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her sisters came in the room and was unrelenting
on you,
on Jen. On Jen.
Oh.
I was like, whoa! Is this sisterly love? She opened up both barrels.
Did you see what I sent you?
You sent me American Lung Association on Twitter.
Yeah,
is that one?
I just thought it was fun.
Oh, I like fun. Let's have some fun. So let me throw this. Let me throw this on there.
I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page as we are.
So, American Lung Association says we couldn't agree more. We urge Congress to respond by creating forgivable loans and grants for nonprofits of all sizes to expand eligibility to mid-size and larger nonprofits who were shut down out of the initial Paycheck Protection Program funding.
Now, if you click on that,
this is from The Hill.
Well, not The Hill, but the tweet. But they're.
Oh, you want me to read comments from the tweet? Is that what you're saying?
Just look at at least the first one is mine. I said, well, nonprofits of all sizes. So it's always fun to see things like
it's $148 million and $153 million. That's a lot of fucking money.
Well, yeah, but they
I didn't make anywhere near that much money and didn't get a stimulus check.
But Patrick, you have to make sure that they get their money. So, just so you know,
yeah,
rent's due. Send them $600. Right?
Yeah.
I just thought they couldn't agree more. I didn't understand. I didn't understand it. That's all I got for Twitter. There's other stuff on there, but
yeah. Demetrius did actually post a video on Facebook.
Is it his wreck?
No, I guess he's at home.
Okay. Is he pooping yet?
Well, I suggested to Phil, because I was picking on Phil about having to go up and be the royal ass wiper.
Well, yeah.
I suggested to him to stop at Lowe's or Home Depot on the way, because he is supposedly going to Tennessee tomorrow, driving up to stop and buy a bidet.
At least.
Yeah, but here it's 41 seconds. So we love Demetrius, so we'll show it. We'll show it.
Thank you all for the prayers and the wishes and the messages. I've been trying to respond. Obviously, I can't type back, but I'm trying to use my voice to text or just a voice message to thank you all. But the outpouring of love and support is much appreciated by me and my family. I'm here home finally and trying to recover now. It's going to be a rough next couple of weeks, but everything is going to be okay. So thank you once again to everybody for their outpour of love and support.
So at least he's home. He was sitting on his bed at home instead of in the hospital. So, glad he's made it. And, it's going to be more than a couple of weeks.
I'd say,
as a therapist, I will tell you, his recovery is going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and he'll come out, no problem. He's got a supportive family, and he's going to have good therapists and stuff. So yeah, he looks like shit, but yeah, he's going to get better. So it'll be, I'm probably, he's not going to like this, but he needs to stay the fuck off the back of the motorcycle. And it's not because of him. As somebody that used to ride bikes, and I've had big bikes and little bikes, and Leanna's in the chat room, and Leanna has a Harley, or she has a bike at least. People that are the other people on the road don't don't pay attention.
Nope.
And it's not usually the person on the bike's fault. It's the other assholes that are on the road with you that are the problem.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's he'll make it through. It's going to suck, but he'll make it through. And, we love him. So,
yep.
As grumpy as he gets and as grumpy as I get, I can tell you that the grumpiness will actually help him because he will not give up. No. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. But what else happened on Twitter this week, Kevin?
Oh,
you know what? I changed my profile picture. I didn't realize that when you change your profile picture on Twitter, that it sends out a tweet telling everybody that you changed your fucking profile picture. Did you know that?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Because
I'm going to have a seizure.
I've seen other people do it is why.
I did not know that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
What does it go? Oh no! I'm gonna have a fucking seizure. I don't know what's going on here.
I don't know.
Are
you wrong? Where are you? There you are. Here, I'll send you another.
Why does it do that? It's never done that before.
What?
It has done that before. The flashing.
The flash.
When I share the screen, it's going blah 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 blah. It looks like I'm having a fucking.
You get all your cords.
There we go. So yeah, look, I changed my profile picture. Then it sent out a tweet to everybody. Hey, look, Actually changed his profile picture.
Yep.
I didn't realize it did that.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, I hope so.
You'll be fine.
Juka. What did you just send me?
Juka. Yep.
Can you say Juka's last name?
Juka's last name. See, I did it perfectly.
No.
Well, you just said say it. I did. There you go.
Say what it is.
Say what it is.
Yeah, say what his last name is. Say it.
Sir. Kelavuri, I think. Kaluravi or Kelavuri. I've never asked him how to pronounce it.
Well, you should ask. You should ask.
Not sure where he's from. I'm not sure what nationality that is to try if it's Spanish or
It is Finnish.
It's Finnish. Okay, there you go.
Finnish.
There you go.
So you're wanting me to share this?
I love Juka. He's a good guy.
Germany. So in Germany, they actually had a court case, and the court ruling is that it is not false advertising or misleading to say that e-cigarette saves lives. So the advertising slogan, e-cigarettes save lives, now switch, is not misleading, and according to a German court ruling this week. So that's cool.
That is cool.
That a court in a country has deemed it legal for e-cigarette companies to say e-cigarettes can save your life if you switch to e-cigarettes.
And that can lead to more. That's a good thing.
Yeah. If dominoes can fall the other way. Sometimes it's like trying to make a domino fall uphill, but it's possible with the right amount of force. So we just need to apply the force in the right ways.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those tiny little wins that I saw during the week, and I enjoy those.
Well, when we get so few, I already showed the Azim thing. I was kind of disheartened that the Azim tweet has only been retweeted 34 times and only received 34 likes.
I did it during the show because I
know. Because it went up by one right after I said it, so I knew it was you.
Yeah.
And I already showed. So the campaign for tobacco-free kids was so annoying. I had to reply twice, or I had to tweet twice. And the first one, obviously it's the same thing. Mike Bloomberg is uniquely qualified. Blah blah blah. And I said, how? What makes a big business guy with no medical credentials uniquely qualified to serve as a global ambassador for health? Is a big checkbook as good as a medical degree? Why are you blocking? And they were also blocking comments on there, so you couldn't respond.
That's the latest. Lung Association's doing it as well.
Yeah, why are you blocking comments? Logic like this is what got Trump elected president. And how was that dumpster fire? So, in their mind, if you have a big bank account or a big checkbook, that makes you uniquely qualified to serve in certain roles. And those roles would be whatever you want. It's like whatever role the donator gets or wants is what the donator gets. And I'm sorry, but just because you made money and you're a good business guy.
So there's
Bloomberg, you can say that Bloomberg is an asshole and you can say that Bloomberg is a douchebag, but Bloomberg does know how to make money.
Right. So you got 3 classes. Excuse me. The first two Nancy talked about. You got the scientists who won't speak out of turn or out of church or out of whatever. So they won't talk against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get the politicians who, for lack of trying, being one thing, they don't really care. And when they do care, they're already like the scientists. They're already in their preconceived mode, like you mentioned. And then you've got the money that talks, walks, screws, and says, yeah, fuck you. I got more money than you do. So those things, and what Nancy pointed out tonight was very, very pertinent to all of our heads, in my opinion.
Now, here's another one.
I was just going to say, what's this?
London South Bank University. Groundbreaking research at London South Bank University has found that vaping is likely to be less addictive than smoking, with cost being a vital limiting factor for those making the switch today from e-cigarettes to tobacco products. And then there's a World Cancer Day hashtag and a link to LSBU and the world's first research finds vaping less likely, blah, blah, blah. And there's a link to a little blog about it. So, I mean, they're saying things that we've been saying for years.
Yeah,
obviously, we know, obviously, because when we were smokers, the first thing I did was get out of bed in the morning and smoke a cigarette on my way to the bathroom.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Or in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So now that I'm a vapor, I don't get my first toot on my vape until I'm in the car on my way to work.
I'm
sometimes
I'm coffee first.
Well, yeah, the coffee is on the way to the car.
Oh no.
And then in the car, coffee and nicotine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've known that at least I've known that for years.
Mm-hmm.
There is no MAOIs in my vape, so I don't get that reinforcement.
Right, not that we know of.
Ooh, I think we do know that.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that there's no MAOIs hidden in any of the flavors that I've made, that I've added together. And I don't think any chemical reaction in the mixture of those flavors would create an MAOI.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
don't have a mass spec here, but no mass spec analysis of any vape liquid has turned up MAOIs.
So you're saying that we're not trying to enhance our nicotine to make it more addictive? Like tobacco?
No, I don't want to fuck with my nicotine. I like it just the way it is.
There you go.
And then obviously Clovis. Clovis is sharp as a fucking knife, that Clovis guy. So that Clovis guy points out something that we've also pointed this out, and we've actually showed this video on this show.
I feel a thread coming on.
So this is number one. It says number one, found on social media. These organizations use images of children, puppets, and cartoon characters vaping They inform teens all your friends are doing it, and they come in yummy flavors. First example, this is from the Truth Initiative. It's a video with a Muppet and a cartoon coffee cup. Number 2, Clovis says, found on social media, these organizations use children, puppets, and cartoon characters vaping. They inform teens all your friends are doing it, and they come in yummy flavors. The next example, this is from Tobacco Free Kids. 1 Juul pod equals 20 cigarettes. And then there's a kid smoking 20 cigarettes all at one time, and a kid with a Juul pod. This is cool.
That's how it works.
Right? So number 3, this is World Health Organization. And this is a little girl with a really cool, like, Wonder Woman airplane mod in her hand. It's invisible.
What is she, like 7, 9? Maybe.
Yeah, I would say that, and I am not one of those people that believes that vape shops have never sold to kids, and I'm not one of those people that believe that vape shops are still not selling to kids. I know for a fact that there are bad players who don't give a shit, and yes, are selling products to kids, but I would find it really hard to believe that this would happen.
Correct.
4, same thing. This is, again, the Truth Initiative. And now, Kevin, if you look at this puppet's face and you see that he's vaping, now this expression on his face and just the eyes leads me to believe that he's not vaping nicotine.
It's a little glassy, aren't they?
He does look kind of stony in this picture, is all I'm saying. And we played this video on the show with the animals.
This is what we call a thread on Twitter.
This is number 5.
Number 5.
This is number 5, and this is the Animals Against Human Testing. We played this video just a few weeks ago, actually. Again, cute, cuddly animals, talking animals. Kids love talking animal films. Number 6. This would scare the shit out of me, to tell you the truth, because I would want to call the police and follow this van around to make sure that they're not abducting kids. This looks kind of scary here. Number 7. Oh, look, a cartoon hipster kid with the wavy hair. Look at that. But in this style, how do you know that this is a kid?
Of course.
This in this cartoony style, this could be a 40-year-old dude. You don't know.
It's not a boomer. It could be a millennial, and it might be
no gray hair there. But
that's true.
Okay. So this is number 8. 1 in 5 Minnesota high schoolers vapes nicotine, and there's a picture of one kid handing a vape to another kid in the classroom. So now, whose fault is this? Is this the older kid giving it to the younger kid, or is this 2 kids of the same age that one of their big brothers went and bought it for them?
I don't know. I can't see,
because this is not a vape shop's. This is not the vape shop's fault. That's
a black market.
That's a social sourcing thing. Definitely. And this is like really psychedelic. Weird color, psychedelic stuff. I don't think this person's vaping nicotine.
No. Oh, look, there's another one.
Hey, there's number 10. This is actually a Project Orange ad. This is a Truth ad that plays on the Xbox.
Yes, Will. Yes, Will. I think that's the one Will's referring to right there in the bathroom, pulling it out of the toilet.
No, that's a different one. It's also, I think it's also in this thread, but definitely. Look at this. This is a stony kid. This is definitely not a nicotine kid. The nicotine kid would look much more attentive and alert.
Now that's a stoner.
Well, look at that hair. Tell me that kid's not a stoner kid. I'm just joking. I had hair like that. What? Why did Clovis block you, Bruni?
What? Oh, that's
and I don't know what. I have no idea what's going on in this picture. These two dudes are way too close to each other. I don't know, dude. I've never seen people shotgunning a vape before, but
no. Tricks and scary. And, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It makes me look cool. My friends vape, so I should too. It makes me feel relaxed. So this one is the only valid use, or at least, like I said weeks ago, if your kid is vaping, I'm gonna take this out. If your kid is vaping, you need to find out why they're vaping. Are they having problems? Or if it's for a buzz, that's obviously not a valid reason, and you need to punish them. But if there's a problem that's sort of making them want the vape because they're stressed out, you need to figure out why.
Parenting.
Because that's your job as a parent. Yes.
Patrick. Oh, Patrick.
Parenting. Yes, Kevin.
Parenting is an action verb. Troop, you're right.
But yeah, there are 22 examples in this thread that Clovis has gone and gone to all the trouble of finding these pieces. And of course, if there's 22, there's probably 100. But it's really annoying to me. You and I understand what nicotine does for us.
Yeah.
I work in a high stress field. Even before this career, when I worked in publishing, that's a very high stress world. And even before that, when I was getting shot at on a daily basis, that's high stress. I vaped to cope with some of that stress. If a kid is smoking or vaping, it's not always because they want to look cool.
No.
And obviously we need to find out why. Yes. If it's because they want to look cool, or if it's for the buzz, we need to deal with that. But if your kid is having some problems,
right,
and they're doing it to relax, or they're doing it to feel better, then you need to deal with that as well. Don't immediately go on the offensive and go, well, it's your fault because you sold it to my kid. Find out why your kid circumvented the law to do it.
Yep. Will's saying the same thing I've been saying. They're seeing it and they're doing it. Some of them. Yeah. Some of them are doing it for other reasons, like you just pointed out. Obviously, you can't discount your kid's mental health, period. There's a personal story to that I won't go into at the moment. But subliminal messaging was real popular, way before, when Ed was around, when he was born. Subliminal messaging in films and other shit. In the 70s, they said we can't advertise tobacco on TV anymore. So instead of advertising tobacco on TV, Tobacco-Free Kids, Truth Initiative, Truth Orange, lung, heart, cancer, they all put pictures of what on their stories for the media. What's the first thing they're going to do when they're talking about vaping? Is somebody vaping. And when they're talking about cigarettes, for the image in your mind, you have to see cigarettes. And then they're talking about kids. And then they're talking to the parents, allegedly. But these organizations are supposed to be aimed at children, yes? For the Tobacco-Free and Truth, allegedly. Yes. And what were they doing before vaping? They were showing pictures of cigarettes. That's what they were doing. They still do on occasion, but it's always vaping. Has been since about 2016. So yeah, it's absolutely what they're doing.
So Bruni has corrected himself. Clovis has not blocked him. He had Clovis confused with somebody else. I was worried there for a minute because I know Clovis quite well, and I know Clovis wouldn't block Bruni.
I like Clovis.
Clovis is pretty cool. Definitely. Yeah. So now, Kevin,
Patrick.
when you were a teenager,
decades ago, yeah,
would any of these campaigns have changed your mind about making choices of any sort?
I am of as you are. The Nancy said no, just say no. I am of the this is your brain on drugs generation. And when I was lighting my joint and or my cigarette, because usually they went hand in hand, once in a while I'd have an alcoholic beverage that I wasn't old enough to buy either.
Well, you were like 3, so yeah.
If I was 4 by this time, I would snicker, giggle, and laugh at these idiot things. The only thing that caught my eye as a young kid, the only thing was MAD. And because of a death that I knew, and drinking and driving and all that, and then I went into the taxi industry, ironically. That was regardless of their stupidity that I've heard of, that was one of them that actually I went, oh wow, shit, that's pretty good. And I remember them having at the prom every year, they would have the wreck and the helicopter would come in, care flight. So that one was effective to me specifically. The drugs and the smoking and when I was in 6th grade, they brought one of those lungs that you can buy that looks like it's been, cancered up. You can buy those people looking like that. That's not how they look. It's a kit. And that didn't affect, I was already smoking at 6th grade. And I thought, well, that's kind of neat. That's what it didn't do a damn thing. So the answer is no, the long version of it.
Yeah, I mean,
did you?
No.
Why not?
Because I loved sin. Oh, never mind.
Because fuck that. That's why we're kids. What do we do?
When I was a kid, I was smarter than every adult, or at least in my mind. In my mind, I was smarter than every adult, and I wasn't going to have some asshole tell me what I couldn't. I was I was the picture of rebellion. Like I didn't, I'm sure you've seen this movie, The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Now my life situation was not nearly as bad as Bender's in that movie, but that was my personality. Like I knew better than everybody. And I was smarter than everybody, and nobody. I mean, obviously, I wasn't smarter than everybody, and I didn't know more than everybody. But I sure as hell thought I did.
Of course, you did.
And I was not going to bend to authority. I was not going to listen to any of that. So no, none of those campaigns would have worked on me.
So Bots did smoke weed years ago. Haven't partaken in quite some time. Troop, look at Troop. He's got to be as old as we are. He's probably older, I'm sure. So when he heard there was peach flavored chewing tobacco, he wanted it, but he already used it. So see, subliminal messaging.
Yeah, I mean it's marketing.
Yeah, period. My camera fucked up.
Poor Kevin. You went this whole show without blurry cam, and then you got blurry cam. You just unplugged the wrong thing too. Now the one ad that steered me away from hard drugs the most was the Calvin Klein junkie chic campaign they were trying to sell me clothes, and they actually turned me off of drugs. Oh. Lost his mic and his cam now.
Do you have that?
Now you're back.
I don't remember the Calvin Klein one.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Calvin Klein had an entire ad campaign with all these fucking pasty looking heroin addict looking junkie models.
Was this the Just Say No era?
It was in the mid 80s.
I don't remember. I was already stoned by then. I don't remember this one at all. I really don't.
I've said it before on this show. I've smoked plenty of marijuana and never got what everybody else gets out of marijuana.
Well, I got what everybody else got, and hungry. But
I'm always hungry, so I'm a fat guy. I'm always hungry. But
I don't remember Calvin Klein doing that. I remember
I love me some booze, but I never just didn't do it for me.
That's good.
I have an addictive personality too. I obsess. I collect things. But yeah, that was just not one of the things that worked for me.
Wow.
I'm kind of mad because I could chill out now. I wish it worked. I need to chill out.
Yeah, it relaxed me. Made my back feel better. That was about it.
I just take a Percocet for that.
Yeah. See,
I tore my knee up, and the doctor wrote me a prescription for Percocet.
There you go.
He was my friend.
Troop has confirmed he's old. He's just old.
He's older than both of us.
Is he really?
Yes.
Like Ed old or like Bruni old?
He's between you and Bruni.
Somewhere in the middle. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, Ed's over there drinking a bottle of red wine and chewing some edibles right now.
Well, he needs nourishment to stay above ground.
He's got his Pinot.
Leave poor Ed alone.
And his THC edibles. So yeah, I mean, we had an amazing show with Nancy Loucas.
Nancy, yeah,
she was fun. Because I had talked to her earlier in the week. She's like, because she was like, well, what am I supposed to be coming on there to talk about? And I'm just like, just come on and talk about Nancy.
It's a surprise.
Well, some of these interview shows, they actually send you like a list of the questions they're going to ask.
If you did that to me, I'd tell you to kiss my ass.
I'd be like, there's no fucking way. There are shows that do that. These are the questions we're going to ask, so you can prepare your answers and blah blah blah. And
that's what they did with Jerry.
They're
scripted,
boring.
Period.
They're boring. You can tell. So our shows are much more fun.
We have a guide. Sometimes we don't always hit every single point.
No, I mean, I very loosely roadmap it in my head where I want to go, but I also leave room to really go into the weeds if I need to or if I want to. Mm-hmm. Obviously, last week with Holly Hughes, I had a lot more stuff I wanted to cover.
Way more.
She only had 45 minutes, so we still did a good show. It was awesome.
That's okay.
But having these people with brains on, it's nice to let them go off stream of consciousness and
it gives me a break,
deviate.
Honestly.
Deviate. So yeah, next week with Dr. Mark Tyndall, we have to be respectable because he's like a.
Do you want me to wear a tie? I'll wear a freaking tie.
No, we're not gonna wear fucking ties. I'm not doing that.
All right.
And I'll probably be wearing some sort of snarky t-shirt, but I feel like we're blessed. I feel like we're blessed with the massive, amazing quality of guests that we've had on. Ed West, there is no helping. Ed asked if there's any ideas with helping with the mail ban. There's no helping it. It's passed. It is the law.
It's
the only thing that we can do is spend the next 18 months to 2 years engaging with politicians and hopefully get the law changed. But that's the law of the fucking land. And it sucks. But we did all the shit right. We did, the letter writing campaigns, the calling in, trying to talk to your congressman. My fucking congressman co-sponsored that goddamn bill. Now, that bill didn't pass individually. It was stuck in the omnibus. But
Right.
the one thing that I've told you before, the number one thing that we could have done differently that would have made the most impact was we should not have drawn the line in the sand and said all Democrats hate vaping and all Republicans love vaping.
Right.
If we had approached the Democrats in a face-to-face way, in a non-adversarial posture over the last 4 years, we would be in a better place. Nothing that anybody can say will change my mind on that. If we had done things differently, in the rearview mirror, hindsight is 2020. We made that situation worse by not trying to engage in a peaceful way, in a concerted way with the left or the Democrats or whatever. Because if you think about it, we should be more in tune with the progressives because they're the ones that are pushing harm reduction. They're the ones that are pushing human rights. If we had presented this argument in that way, we might have gotten a few people to vote no on this vape mail ban. We might have had a few people that would have negotiated this out. And we didn't do that. So, I can blame politicians all I want, but we didn't consider this until it was too fucking late. But if we'd have spent the last 4 years coming from a different angle, they may have had that already negotiated because the last 4 years we've been on an adversarial role. So you have to think long term. I've been here 10 years and this is the same fucking dialogue that we've had and nobody's ever said, hey, maybe we should, come at these guys from a different angle. So they may have had their mind made up on this bill or on this language already. But it was because we didn't fucking engage with him over the long term.
Yeah.
So, Ivana, UPS and FedEx have both stated that they do not have in place a signature upon delivery and ID issued signature system. They have a signature system in place, but they do not have an ID, we card you program in place. And they said that they do not plan on doing so because of the extreme amount of burden that it would put onto them liability wise to comply with the PACT Act and to include all of the penalties if they fuck it up. That's what they're looking at. So yes, you can be upset with them, but they may literally look at your name on your ID to verify that you are you.
Right.
But they don't age verify you. So there is a difference. In Canada, Post does it. That's fine. But these services do not do that. Anywhere in the world, they do not age verify. They might ID verify, but they don't age verify. And the PACT Act, which is the law of the land, yes. I already told you that they do verify your ID. They verify your identity, but they don't verify your age. So yes, they do ask for your signature upon delivery. They ask for your name to verify that you are you. But they're not accepting the liability of turning that product over to you because you're a certain age or you're not a certain age. Because if you're not a certain age, they have to take it back. And they are accepting ownership of that package. That is a level of liability that they're not willing to accept. So once this became a PACT Act issue, in addition to the tobacco product category here in the States, they said that they're not accepting the liability. They're not accepting the extra amount of responsibility that they have to accept upon themselves for being that. Yes, you're in Canada, and Canada Post may do that. The States does not do that. Plus, you don't have the PACT Act in Canada. So what are you giving me here?
A hard time as I can.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me flip my screen here. Okay. So Biden put a memorandum on restoring, nobody in the chat room laughed, restoring trust in government through scientific integrity and evidence-based policy making. So when we've got, like you just said about the Democrats, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, you've got hate, discrimination, human rights, you've got harm reduction. I like safer alternatives better than harm reduction because I can't remember who told me this, but they don't like harm reduction. They don't like that term. Some don't like that term. So
Yeah.
the graphic on here is improper political interference in the work of federal scientists or other scientists who support the work, that's the Glancy stuff, of the federal government grants, and in the communication of scientific facts, undermines the welfare of the nation, contributes to systemic inequities and injustices, and violates the trust that the public places in government to best serve its collective interests. So my tweet to the right side of that, if it's on there, attention all political, nonprofit, public health groups, Joe being the president, is talking to you, tobacco-free kids, truth, etc. All the people, all the body parts stuff, and I linked that in the chat. The memorandum, it says, was from around 2009. So I don't remember this 2009. I was busy, raising my family. But this has been around a while. The idea has been around a while. So when the hate, the discrimination, the human rights issues come up on either side, you can point to this along with the science that you're going to hand your rep, your doctor in some instances, especially. They still don't know any better. They really don't. And that was what I wanted to tell you. That's all.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting little memorandum anyway.
Yeah, I mean, go and read that link in the Azim tweet that breaks down the PACT Act and understand the amount of bullshit that they have to do. So any person that ships tobacco products over the mail has to register.
Yep.
Every sale has to be reported somewhere. So if you're selling from one state to the next, you have to report to the tax collector in that other state that you sent a tobacco product into their state. The shipper has to also report the delivery of that package to. So there's, it's a fucking mind fuck, the amount of bullshit that these people have to go through. You have to register with each state if you ship to each state.
Yeah.
The shipper has to track each package, verify signature, verify age, make sure that they didn't release a package to somebody that wasn't of age. So they're accepting legal responsibility for something that they are not responsible for. So, I mean, I'm not supporting. I'm pissed off about the PACT Act in general, but I'm not blaming UPS and FedEx for covering their asses either. And also for not wanting to have to go through all of that rigmarole. As a consumer, if I were to ship something as a consumer to another consumer, they're not going to fucking bother with me.
No.
But as a business, yeah, they want to know. Every one of those states wants to know how much money that you're going to be sending them for the tobacco that you just sent into their state.
Mm-hmm.
If you think the reason why ATF goes after counterfeit cigarettes and non-taxed cigarettes as vehemently as they do, it has nothing to do with the fact that they care about people smoking.
No.
It's about making sure that ATF is a division of the Treasury. They want the fucking money.
Money.
That's
money.
all it is that they want to make sure that cigarette has a tax stamp from a state on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
That's all they're worried about. That's all they care about. So, yes, it is definitely a reporting and a tax issue. Like, they want to know all of that stuff.
Eric Garner died for this.
Yeah. I can't breathe.
I can't breathe, period. That's why he's dead.
Because of selling all that shit. So, yeah. I mean, the PACT Act it's about tobacco products. Yes, some states allowed delivery of booze. That's not a fucking tobacco product. It's a fucking booze. It's booze. And they also have one of the most powerful lobbies in DC. Mm-hmm. They've had 200 or 300 years of dealing with regulation. Alcohol and tobacco were the first two products that were ever taxed in the United States.
Yep.
And the tobacco farmers and the alcohol distillers learned how to deal with the government. Vaping has not. And we're not going to play footsie with them, so that's the problem. We're all a bunch of rebels, and we don't like to follow the rules anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of shit. That's why I suggest everybody go and read that thing from Azim, where he discusses it, explains it in very good and easy to understand terms, and share the shit out of it so that all the other people that are in vaping understand what the issues are. Because I see people saying, oh, well, they just rolled over. No, it has nothing to do with rolling over. It has to do with the fact that their ability to comply and the liability that they are accepting upon themselves when they agree to ship these products. Yeah. And how much legal jeopardy they can be in, because there are substantial monetary fees and fines if they don't do it right. And yes, they're big companies, but they fuck up a couple times, it could be a big deal. So, yeah, I'm not defending them. I'm just explaining why.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whether we have to, even I saw somebody post today, some sort of vape freight company that they put up they have to comply with the PACT Act. Doesn't matter if it's an independent shipping company or not. They still have to comply with the law and do all of the necessary reporting and all of the liability and all that. They have to understand what they're getting themselves into, because it's not a little amount of work.
So we were talking about fines. I'll link it here in a second. In 2019,
and then that's just the federal. That's not counting the state stuff.
Yeah. Unregulated, thousands of cartons of untaxed cigarettes from UPS to New York State and New York City, shipping hundreds of thousands, of cartons. The unpaid taxes were 97.6 million from 247. So they changed it. I'm not sure of what civil penalties were lowered to 78 million. So they're not playing around. They're not playing around. I'm not reading the whole thing through, and it's been a while since I've read it.
It's substantial. It's substantial.
Not funny. That was just UPS, so they're not going to fuck around. They're not.
No, I mean, obviously, they're already seizing counterfeit products coming from China. Yeah. Enforcement is starting to ramp up a little bit. They're seizing packages. They're doing all this stuff. So, it's not, and that's just New York, right?
Yep. And at the bottom, it said UPS rival FedEx agreed to pay $35.4 million to settle 3 lawsuits by New York State and New York City. So 35.4, that's the settlement. That wasn't the original. That's what they ended.
Yeah, that's a settled out of court number, which would have been at least double.
Yeah,
if
that's in that
if they'd have gone.
Same
Yeah.
article.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot
No
of
joke.
issues here, and this is very serious. You know, like I said, consumer to consumer, I don't imagine that they're they're looking at big boxes. They're looking at you know, pallets and you know, massive industrial quantities. You know,
yeah, Patrick, if
So-
you wanted something out of Dayton, Ohio, and you called me and said, "Hey, I want this product out of Dayton, Ohio," and I said, "Okay, I'll go over there and grab it. I'm going to put it in the fucking mail, and you're going to get your shit." That's what's going to happen. If you're a business and you're looking at $34.9 million fine, you're going to think twice. You know, I hope you are. I'm all for breaking the law, but I'm not all
Breaking
for
the
you
law,
going to,
breaking the
going
law.
to court. In
Yeah. So
Canada,
yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people like fucking, you know, dunking on UPS and FedEx, and it's a very complex issue, and obviously not happy about it because I live in a place where there's no vape shops.
Yep.
And if I want to buy coils or if I want to buy e-liquid, I have to go online and do that. And, you know, this is threatening me. Now I can order shit from Europe and have it sent DHL. I ordered last Friday. I ordered 2 upgrades for my K funds from Greece.
Yeah.
And they were here in 4 days.
And yet Jennifer and Nick still wait.
Well, because that didn't require me to ship something out. That required somebody to ship something to me. You know?
Oh, okay.
So DHL does deliver here, and they deliver here very quickly from Europe. Do I want to do that? No, I don't want to fucking do that. I don't want to pay, you know, $15 in shipping to have something brought over here that quickly. But, you know, if I have to, I will.
Yep.
Because I don't want to die, and I want to keep vaping because I like it.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if I was still ordering from Troop, I used to order from Troop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Troop can't send shit for me. A DHL is a German freight company, and DHL is Deutsch something. I'm sure by the time I Google it, Paul, if he's still in the chat room, will probably blast it out.
I don't know.
But DHL. It doesn't say. I'm sure it's Deutsch something, though. Because it's German. But yes, we have to understand that people have to make choices that are best for them.
Yep.
And as much as I hate it, FedEx may have decided that it's too much for them to expect or accept, knowing that they've already kicked out a couple $1 million. So no, it's a German. It's not owned by the German government. It's a privately held company in Germany, but yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, we act and react. That's what we do. It's what vapors do, and we're on the ropes because this, whether we like it or not, I mean. And they will never say that it is, but this is a fucking ban.
Yep.
They can color this any way, shape, or form. But I've already seen that UPS put a fucking hold on creating corporate accounts for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So, if UPS agrees to continue to do business to business shipping, one business to another business license, and they're preventing people from opening new business accounts, it's a fucking ban.
Yeah.
So yeah, there will only be a handful of available recipients. I saw some people saying, well, what if we get some sort of arrangement where we can order consumers can order stuff from the companies that they like and have it delivered to their local vape shop.
Right.
That's possible. If the local vape shop will accept that delivery.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you have to deal with. So yeah, the PayPal, and it's always been against the terms of service for PayPal. So I see a lot of people getting pissed off about PayPal, but it's always been against their terms of service. Always. So, it is a sucky thing, but yeah, PayPal's already said, we don't want to have any part of your transaction if you're selling vape products. If you happen to get a couple of transactions through and they don't notice, and then one day they do, it's not their fault. You're the one that broke the rules.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with the rules or not, it's still their right to say no. You've signed the terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the same thing when I had that argument with Fig about YouTube. I may not like it, but it is YouTube's right to say we're not going to allow any vaping content on YouTube. Hate it.
Yep.
But that's the fucking rules. You agreed to it when you signed the terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, what do you want to end the show with tonight, Kevin?
I was glad Nancy came on. Put a face to the name. I hope we continue our trajectory of good shows. Will just said it's been a great show yet again. That's a positive thing. There's so much negative that goes on normally in the world without COVID, and now with COVID even more so. And it drains on people sometimes, and I don't want to be the draining part of your lives. So I appreciate you, and I haven't said this in a few weeks, Patrick, but I appreciate you way more than I'll ever admit on a live show, because I don't like you very much. But,
I know,
but yeah, you're attracting quality people. Last week, a couple of people said I was quiet. I was very quiet, very purposefully. I knew she had a short amount of time, and I wanted to hear what she had to say, and boy, did she not disappoint at all. So
yeah,
when I'm quiet, it's for a reason. I'll be the Ed McMahon, or I'll be the monkey, because it doesn't matter, and I'll get my shot at Patrick in when I can. But the contents of the show have progressively gone up, in my opinion, and for that I'm grateful, and for everybody in the room I'm grateful, and those who have left. That's my final thoughts. With a little heart.
For two guys that literally have no business talking to the great quality of people that we've been able to get on. I mean, for one, when Dr. Glover was on the last time, one of her messages when I sent her the link to come on the show, she's like, "Is it just going to be you?" And I was like, "No, vaping, it's going to be there." She's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, good." So yeah, don't give me all the credit for that. And yes, Senator Holly Hughes will be back in a few weeks to do a part 2. So and obviously she's promised to give us more than 45 minutes. So once they get through their next phase, and she called it something, but when they get through this next phase, and she gets to get those answers to those questions that she demanded and gave them a deadline for, she'll come back. And yes, I want to thank everybody that comes here. every week and listens to us. Sometimes we know the answers to your questions. Sometimes we don't. And sometimes we'll give you an answer you don't like, but it is the answer. It's like I keep quoting Paul Newhouse. This is the data. The data doesn't care about your feelings. Yes.
I don't like what you say sometimes.
Well, I don't like what I say sometimes, but it's the data. I can only tell you that just the facts, ma'am. So, you know, the fact that we don't interject our opinion, or we don't try to color the truth to make it more pleasant.
No,
this
correct.
is the truth. That's all I ever promise, is to give you the truth. And sometimes I may read something and misunderstand it and tell you something, because that's the truth that I know. And if somebody comes in later and says, "Oh, by the way, you said X, Y, and Z, this is you misinterpreted that," or whatever, I will.
I did that this week privately to you and a couple other people. I was embarrassed.
I will say, you know what, I was wrong. But more often than not, I'm not. It is just the way it is. I hate it. We're going to fight. I still don't think that we're a tobacco product.
Nope.
But we are a fucking tobacco product until we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We're a tobacco product because Congress says we are a tobacco product. Not because we are an actual tobacco product, but we are a tobacco product.
For regulatory purposes, that's what we are.
Whether I like it or not, that's what we are. And we will stay that way until we fight and get redefined as something else. So just because I'm telling you a fact that I don't like doesn't mean I agree with it, but it is what it is until it's something else. So the facts will always be the facts on this show. As far as being excited for what's coming, we have Dr. Mark Tyndall coming next week.
Mm-hmm. TED Talk guy.
Unless he's a fucking guy that got to stand on the TED stage and give a TED Talk. And I'm addicted to TED Talks. I love watching them. I mean, they had some 14-year-old kid on there the other day talking about education and learning.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid got up there. He's a 14-year-old kid, and he gave an amazing talk about learning and about school and about, all sorts of stuff. And you're like, wow, this is a 14-year-old kid. And he's giving. When I was 14 years old, there's no fucking way I would have got on a stage. And especially with a live audience, and delivered what that kid delivered. They have TED Talks on every fucking topic in the world.
Yes.
And they're some of the most amazing presentations and speakers that you'll ever find. So we're going to have a guy of that caliber on our little show next week. So when I actually schedule the show and when I build the advertisement for the show, I'm begging you guys, please share that, because we always have a very engaging chat room. I want that fucking chat room full when this guy comes on, because this is not a vapor guy.
No.
This is a guy from outside of our world who is willing to come into our world and talk about harm reduction and about tobacco harm reduction and about his experiences pushing for legislation that would allow him to do something that most people at the time were anti. I mean, he is the clean needle exchange and safe injection site guy from Canada, from I think British Columbia.
He is Professor UBC School of Population and Public
British
Health.
Columbia.
Infectious diseases doctor, advocate for human rights, TEDMed 2017, founder of the My Safe Project. And it also follows with views of my own out of Vancouver.
So think about that. This is a guy who was pushing for something that even a lot of people are against, the idea that they're giving places for people to safely inject themselves with a drug that's a criminal act. And, doing it so that we don't have them in the emergency room because of an overdose. Reducing the number of AIDS transmissions in that by giving clean needles out and stuff like that. Up until the last couple years, that's been sort of a, really bad topic for a lot of people. So he's coming into our world and talking about harm reduction and about saving smokers. But he's coming from that world where he's literally saving people's life right now. So yeah, this is going to be a great conversation to have. So I like I said, when I build the piece, I want to get confirmation because he picked the date, but I want to double check. And once I put the piece up, I'm just begging you guys, please share it because we want as many people as possible to hear this guy talk. So anyway, Super Bowl weekend. If you're into the sports ball,
the Bears,
or you're into the commercials during the sports ball game, or I don't even know who's playing at halftime because there are a lot of people that watch the Super Bowl just for halftime or just for the commercials. Obviously, I don't care for either of the teams. I'm purposely rooting for Kansas City this time because the mod father, Nick, is a Tampa Bay guy. Him and James Jarvis are Tampa Bay guys. So we're rooting for Kansas City just because I really want to fuck with them and mess with them on social media if they lose. So, that's really my only purpose because the Saints lost last week, or 2 weeks ago. So I'm out. Let's have a good weekend. Let's just enjoy ourselves. Obviously, go and hug your kids, tuck them in. Go find your wife or husband or partner or whatever. Plan a big wet one on them. Enjoy the weekend. Have some steaks or burgers or whatever it is that you do for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Did you cough up a lung in the middle of my closing thoughts?
That's my stoner son in the bedroom.
Okay. And just remember, Monday we wake up and this shitstorm that we're surviving and going through right now, and all this bullshit that we're having to deal with is still going to be here, and we still have to figure out solutions to save people from smoking.
And if you're not watching the Super Bowl, watch the Puppy Bowl.
There's a Puppy Bowl still. Victoria's Secret had a lingerie bowl a couple years ago. That was good. I like that one.
Sir Didymus is in the room. Listen to that.
Yeah, fucking come at the very end. Anyway, love you guys. I will see you in 7 days. Kevin will see you in 7 days, and we will have Dr. Mark Tyndall with us in 7 days. So be good and have a nice one, and peace. Bye.
An educated consumer is our best customer.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room because it's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just I don't know is killing people right now.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
When vaping increases, smoking decreases. That's right. When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
we're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. So, I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
Vaping is a form of tobacco harm reduction. No one is claiming it is the silver bullet that's going to stop everyone from smoking, and I think that's really important to acknowledge. And the people that actually support vaping support it as a harm reduction model.
An educated consumer is our best customer.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.